Chang from Borough President and Ranger Jim.
You are recording.
You want to be on this?
Yeah, okay.
As of now.
You don't have what?
Close up and makes it or
No, it doesn't, but we always have, because we don't
we started?
where, yeah. So I got the
All right.
Okay, so this is Hannah.
So you're all situated,
You're all good?
What should I just do? Like, Hannah, okay, okay.
You type in the name,
Okay.
you know, Nadler's office, put her name, and then whatever she says. Okay, we ready to roll?
ready to go. You're recording.
Why don't we even do this if we record? Anyway.
Because then you'd have to listen to the full recording and do it twice. Antiquated stuff. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get started. Good evening. This is Community Board 1. I'm Tammy Meltzer, the Vice Chair, Elizabeth Lewinson, our Secretary, and Lucian Reynolds, our District Manager. Anthony will be here in a bit, but in the essence of progress, we're going to get started. Okay, so we're calling the meeting to order at 6:13. We'd love to ask Hannah from Congressman Nadler's office if you could be the first to come up. There's a lovely mic on the end.
Can't hear you.
There's a lovely mic on the end. There you go. I gotcha.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Hannah Wienerman from Congressman Nadler's office. We've had quite a day. So I can tell you that we are continuing our impeachment investigation. The Congressman and the Judiciary Committee have been investigating possible evidence for possible articles of impeachment. Now the Democratic leadership is on board. So we're going to continue with that. If you have any questions, you can call our office about it. But in addition to the work that we're doing to do some oversight, we are also continuing to legislate and to do oversight in other areas. So we had a joint hearing about the Muslim ban today. Last week we had a hearing on policing, and then tomorrow I believe we're having a hearing on guns and gun control. We passed some things out of committee around gun control earlier in the month, so we are quite busy down in DC, but we're also quite busy in the district. So if you ever need any help federally, casework, community issues, feel free to contact our office. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Claudia Zhu from Assemblymember Yulee News Office. And then Andrew, you're after that. There you go, please do.
Hi everyone, this is Claudia from Assemblymember News Office. Just for quick updates for what we've been doing over the summer. The Assemblymember spoke at a press conference alongside Senator Hoyman to urge for the passage of the robocall protection bill. So this bill will work to protect consumers from unwanted calls that could be dangerous or unlawful and often prey on senior citizens and immigrants. This was followed by a public hearing, and we hope this bill will continue to move forward and end the misery for all of us. Assemblymember New also attended the City Council hearing on the borough-based jail system and testified against the plan. We hope to continue fighting for a fair and equal process to shut down the Rikers that takes into account the needs of our community. Her full testimony was submitted and also on video if anyone wants to review. Last and not least, the Child Victims Act was signed into law. This increases the statute of limitations for childhood sexual abuse and makes it easier for survivors to seek civil and criminal charges against their abusers. The one-year look-back started on August 14th, alongside with Safe Horizon, Assemblymember New, Assemblymember Cruz, Bichat, and Senator Biaggi released a PSA to inform New Yorkers about the law, and that was broadcasted at Times Square and also available in Mandarin and Spanish. We hope to get a bigger outreach in this case. If there's anything we can do to spread the word more, please let us know. And on a final note, we hope some of our members were around for some of our Night Shack family days and grabbed a scoop of ice cream from Assemblymember New's favorite Chinatown Ice Cream Factory on Bayard Street. Thank you to everyone who stopped by, and with that, good evening, everyone.
Thank you so much. Andrew Chang from Manhattan Borough President's Office. Welcome, Andrew.
Hello everybody, Andrew here. Since we last convened over the summer, the Borough President has met several times, two times with city agencies, Staten Island Borough President James Otto, and other elected officials regarding the ticket hawking in the Battery. And we have made some progress working with EDC regarding contracts and the licenses, and working with NYPD and parks. And Yeah, there has been noticeable decline in ticket hawkers, and we hope to continue to make progress and have more subsequent meetings. And we work in conjunction with the nonprofits in the area, Battery Park City Authority, the Battery Conservancy, and so forth, Downtown Alliance. This Thursday morning, we're going to unveil the winners of our South Street Seaport Community Mural Project. It's basically public art that's going to be hung on the flood protection barriers in South Street Seaport. And we invited elected officials and several nonprofits to come and attend the press conference Thursday morning at South Street and Pine Street. Our annual age-friendly senior events will be on October 27th this year on a Sunday. We usually have nonprofits, speakers talking about age-friendly resources. We have light refreshments. It's a good, fun day of activities for seniors and those who are in caregiving or caretakers to learn about resources available to them. And then lastly, I have several things I want to mention. There are flyers in the back table. One, we've been promoting information about the public charge, the Trump administration's public charge rule, and how it affects immigrant communities accessing public benefits such as SNAP benefits, Medicaid, NYCHA, Section 8 housing. And we gave out several grants to nonprofits for the upcoming census outreach efforts to reach undercounted and underserved communities. And we're also trying to encourage people to be aware about the charter revision proposals on the November ballot. There's going to be a public forum on the Charter Revision Commission issues on October 17th at John Jay College of Criminal Justice. And feel free to visit the website online to learn more. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Let's have Cora come up from the Councilmember Margaret Chin's office. And then after Cora, we'll do Daniel from Senator Kavanaugh's office. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right over to the microphone on the end.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Cora from Councilmember Chin's office, City Council District 1. The Councilmember Chin has a lot of updates for you, but since I only have now 110 seconds, we have a newsletter for you that has a lot related to Department of Aging and also for school children. And for this Saturday, it's going to be a free helmet fitting event at the Battery Conservancy, right at downtown by the South Street Ferry Terminal. So please do come 11 to 2:30. And at that spot, we're going to talk about participatory budgeting. It's a little mouthful for me, so we're going to call it PB, participatory budgeting. Essentially, it's taking $1 million capital funding from the City Council, and you, the resident community members, are going to decide. You're going to vote what project. But before we can vote, we need ideas. And we are now in the idea collection process. A couple weeks ago, we kicked off at 301 Henry Street Settlement. And as you know, City Council District covers from the east to the west. So our office has slowly building that trilingual capacity. So we have Spanish, Chinese speaking, and also English capacity right now. So we're already, the upcoming one is on October the 3rd at Manhattan U. And we are going to have all these cards around. You're going to see it's not just for City Council District 1, but it's for all 5 city boroughs. You're going to see all these cards around. If you live in this district, you can vote, you can give the idea. If you have important stakes in this district, you can propose. You cannot vote, but you can propose and let the residents decide to vote, okay? And it has to be a capital funding. So this Saturday at the South Ferry Terminal, I'll be there and my colleagues. And this one, there's some cards over there. Please do bring your buildings, tell your neighbors to come up with the ideas first. And it's going to be a long process until next year. So we need your active participation And if your children, anyone who's over 11 can get involved. Anyone who's over 11 can get involved. So tell them to contact us, tell them to write their ideas. It's all good for everybody, for us. And if you don't come out and suggest, somebody else will, and they will get the $1 million.
Ooh. Thank you very much, Cora. Daniel from Brian's office, Senator Kavanaugh.
Hello, everybody. How are you? My name is Daniel from State Senator Brian Kavanaugh's office, and I hope I'm here to kind of explain what our office has been doing. We've been running around to event, and I just kind of want to start off by saying I hope everyone had a great summer and that everyone's ready for winter. I already got my jacket on, so I know everyone's going to go back to getting their jackets on and stuff like that, building snowmen. Another thing I wanted to press upon is that we had a great session. We had a great time last session, and we passed a lot of things, and now we're ready for more. And then finally, kind of just want to touch base that I am a new face, and I'm ready to meet everybody here in this room, as well as organizations and more people to kind of get ready and talk to the community more. So again, my name is Daniel. I have a load of business cards they gave me, my full name on it, full email and everything. It's a blessing. So it's really, I'll be here for after the event, so I'll definitely pass by and say hello. Thank you so much.
Thank you and welcome to Community Board 1. Ranger Jim.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ranger Jim. I'd like to say that I'm in charge of Castle Clinton. A lot of people don't know about Castle Clinton. Castle Clinton is the first immigration station before Ellis Island. From 1855 to 1890, over 8 million immigrants came through Castle Clinton, and then they moved to Ellis Island from 1892 to 1954. Also, I'm in charge of Governor's Island. You got to come and see Governor's Island. We have a lot of special events going on in the summer. Our last day going to be open is October the 31st, Halloween. So please come out and visit Governor's Island. A lot of free activities going on. We have junior ranger programs at Fort Jade, Castle William. I'm also in charge of the African Burial Ground. We got a lot of special events going on at the African Burial Ground. Also, we're working on Open House New York. That's something going to be really special there. And I'm also in charge of Federal Hall, where George Washington became the first president of the United States. Please come out and give tours. We got a lot of tours we give out to the public from 9 to 5, and everything is free. Junior Ranger programs, all the kids love that. You get little Junior Ranger badges. So please, thank you. Please come out.
Thank you, Ranger Jim. Frank Palillo. Okay. Jim Karras, charter revision topic.
I'm Jim Karras. I am here on my own behalf. I'm a commissioner with the New York City Charter Revision Commission 2019. I'm not speaking on behalf of the commission. I'm Gail Brewer's appointee to the commission. I'm not speaking on behalf of Gail Brewer. I'm speaking on behalf of myself. It's really, I just wanted to tell you, it's really important for you and everyone you know, and for you all to help us get the word out that on the ballot this November will be 5 Charter Revision Commission questions, revisions to the New York City Charter. And I'm going to give you, because I'm here on my own behalf, I'm going to give you my take on some of the more important things that we did. One proposal will be for ranked choice voting. That will do away with special elections in primaries. That will do away with, runoff elections in primaries and special elections. You'll rank your, if the referendum passes, you'll rank your top 5 candidates. Studies have shown that it's improved voter participation. It's heightened the level of discourse in campaigns because people want to be if they're not your first choice, they want to be your second choice, so they tend not to bash each other as much and focus on the issues. So we think it's a very important proposal. Another thing, very important, reforms to the city's Civilian Complaint Review Board. I was horrified to learn as a commissioner that if a police officer has a complaint against them at the CCRB and shows up to their CCRB hearing and lies to the Civilian Complaint Review Board, the Civilian Complaint Review Board has no jurisdiction over the lie. all they can do is tell the police commissioner that we think that police officer lied to us. And in the past, I think the New York Times wrote an article, in the last 10 years, only 2 police officers had ever been disciplined for lying to the CCRB. This would expand the CCRB's jurisdiction so they can also take into account a lie that was told to them by a police officer. It would also give the CCRB a fixed minimum budget. I don't know if many of you remember, during the Giuliani years, complaints against the police were going up, and Giuliani was cutting the CCRB's budget. It will also give the public advocate an appointee to the CCRB, and instead of just having a mayoral chair, the chair will be appointed jointly by the mayor and the council speaker. Ethics in government. It'll extend the lobbying ban for high-level officials against lobbying their former agency from 1 year to 2 years. The city budget, it'll allow, once the State Financial Control Act sunsets, it will allow the city to have a rainy day fund, so they can save money so that there won't have to be budget cuts during bad times. They'll have essentially a savings account. And finally, although I wanted us to go further in land use, this was a consensus commission because it had appointees from all the various elected officials. Although we didn't go as far as I wanted in giving a pre-ULURP process, there is a provision for a 30-day pre-ULURP notification to communities. So they have to give you a summary of the action 30 days before certification, and also additional time for the community board to consider actions over the summer in recognition of the fact that a lot of community boards don't meet in July and or August. So some of these are little tweaks. Some, like ranked choice voting and the CCRB provision, I think are big things, but I think they all further accountability of government, will make government more responsive. Some little tweaks could be a little tweak with a big impact. The law department. Right now, the law department provides really significant input on really important matters like land use decisions, and they're accountable really only to the mayor. This will require council advice and consent for the corporation council, the head of the law department. So it could be a small change with a larger impact. So please, but however you vote, just come out and vote. Tell everyone to come out and vote. Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody have any questions? Because this is a very new topic for us. Go ahead.
I do. That's a lot of information, okay? And you want the average, so we kind of hear what you're saying, and we'll probably do research to find out more.
www.charter2019.nyc.
Are you going to do a mailing to the public?
There will be TV ads. There will be ads. This you can find on our website. It is a list of all the ballot proposals.
I know, but the average person, they're not, they don't, the general public doesn't have a clue that this is even going to happen. They're going to get to the voting booth and all of a sudden it's going to be overwhelming and they'll just vote whatever or not.
Well, we're doing, the commission is doing a large public outreach effort. I will talk to them to see if they're doing a mail
Town
or
hall to explain to people.
Yes, there will be. That's what the borough president's designee. There will be a Manhattan informational session on October 15th, I think.
Okay.
What's the date?
Graham, you had a question?
Really a comment question on the ranked choice voting. If I remember correctly, that was introduced in Australia in the 1920s. For the reasons you were introducing it, but it was done that way because they didn't have computers. And there are better ways to do this kind of voting in the 21st century when you can count votes electronically. So I'm intrigued that the city went with an old solution. We didn't have it offline, but this is something straight out of the 1920s.
Okay.
I mean,
To be addressed at the town hall?
jurisdictions are just, recently adopting it. We spoke with those jurisdictions, There are studies to show, like I said, that it improves voter turnout, that
It does all those things. I might add Australia has compulsory voting, as do 40 other countries. And Australia introduced secret voting, which you guys copied 30 years later. So maybe there's just something there you can do.
Well, take it offline. Thank you very much, Luke, for coming. Mariam, I saw you come in, didn't know if you were coming.
Lucas
Luke?
Wolf, yeah.
Yep, Lucas Wolf from Controller Scott Stringer's you're next.
That was Jim, right?
That was Jim Carrey. Charter Revision. Thank you, Luke.
Hello. Hi, everybody. I'm Luke. I'm from Controller Scott Stringer's office. A few quick things that I want to share about what we've been working on. The first is in the past month or two, we came out with a big new proposal called NYC Under 3. So building on the work that's been done by the current mayor on expanding pre-K and expanding 3K, the kind of next barrier, the next generation of that is focusing on people under 3 years old. And what we found was that the average family who wants to put someone under 3 into a child care facility would spend $21,000 on average, which is a huge amount for any sort of working family and really an inaccessible amount for people across New York City. So our proposal would expand access, would expand affordability, and would also expand the quality by putting a really big investment into the system for people under 3 years old, and hopefully make it so that New Yorkers across the city would be able to have childcare that is, once again, quality and affordable. So that's been our biggest proposal. We're now having roundtables across the city to make people aware of this, and hopefully it's something that will be able to come to fruition in the coming years to once again build on the work being done and making sure that all New Yorkers have access to quality and affordable education. I know I've met many of you in the past month or two. Once again, I'm relatively new to the Controller's office. So if you have any questions, please feel free to find me now or after the meeting. I'm sitting right back there. I look forward to continuing to partner with all of you.
Thank you. Welcome to CB1. Linda Roche from the South Street Seaport. Hi, Linda. And then, let's see.
So I am Linda Roche. I do live in this area, South Street Seaport Historic District, and I'm here because I think, well, one is I want to thank the community board for supporting our I don't know what you want to call it. I don't want to say argument with Howard Hughes, but we are working on the remediation of 250 Water Street, and you guys have been supporting that. But I did want to bring up an issue that came to my attention recently, and that is that Howard Hughes is rebranding the Seaport.
Yeah.
It is now, according to Howard Hughes, called the Seaport District. And as far as I'm concerned, I've lived here 41 years. It's the South Street Seaport Historic District. Even the Downtown Alliance has in their website, Seaport Historic District, formerly South Street Seaport. So I would like everybody to know that we are committed to keeping the historic district, especially for the museum, because, you know, the museum is having problems trying to keep going. So anyway, that's all I have to say.
I think we're gonna try and group it by topic then. So Stacy Shub, she's not here. Okay. Elaine Kennedy. Thank you, Elaine. Elaine's one of our gracious hosts this evening.
Hi, I'm Elaine Kennedy from Southbridge Towers, and I'm also a chair of a committee called the Seaport Coalition, which was formerly Seaport Planning and Preservation. The coalition is SOS, Save Our Seaport Group, Children's First, which is a group that was formed for the protection of the remediation and investigation of 250 Water Street. They were all mothers from the school district. And Southbridge Towers. Anyway, I'd like to, one, support the resolution of the Waterfront Parks and Cultural Committee for the inclusion into the CIG of the museum in the South Street Seaport. This is very, very important to us. And we went to the museum gala the other night. I don't know how many of you were there. It was a fabulous night under the stars. It was beautiful. It was perfect temperature. The ship looks fabulous after the recommissioning, and it was really a really beautiful event and should be well attended every year. And secondly, as many of you must know, Howard Hughes Corporation has hired Skidmore, Owens, and Merrill, an architectural firm, and they're running 3 workshops called Stakeholder Workshops. And at our Seaport Coalition meeting yesterday, I have a dozen stakeholders who would like to attend. I have spoken to Mark Benoit there, and he asked me to send him the list. But I would like the community board to support the notion that any stakeholder in our district that wants to attend, should be allowed to attend. Thank you.
Seems common sense to me. Okay, Graham Burchell from Downtown Boathouse. We follow up on that.
Hi, I'm Graham Burchell, President of Downtown Boathouse. We're your local free kayaking program. And despite what some people have told you, summer's not yet over. We're offering free kayaking until Columbus Day in October. So please come and enjoy your harbor. It's free, right? Use it or lose it. We have had record numbers of people coming this year, but unfortunately they're mostly tourists, right? And we would like to see more residents come because we think the recreational spaces in the city should belong to residents. So use it or lose it. Thanks so much.
Ray, tell them where it is.
Well, it's on the water. Right. Hudson River, to be specific, Pier 26. For those who don't know, the pier number on the Hudson River is the street number plus 40. So it's minus 14th Street, which puts it right in Tribeca. Pier 40 is Houston Street. So just a 5-10 minute walk from here.
Thank you. Let's have Kara Meyer come up from Plus Pools while we're staying on the topic of waterfront. Figure I've got a theme going tonight.
Hi everyone, I'm Kara Meyer from Plus Pool. For those of you who remember, almost a year ago, we first presented a project called Plus Pool Light that we're building in the river at Pier 17, and it is a floating light sculpture that illuminates the water quality, and it tells you when the water is good and when it's not so good. And we are opening that project next Thursday, and we'd love to invite everyone to come to a free event on the pier from 6 to 8. There's a flyer on the counter for the project, and you can find more information on our website. And I wanted to show you too a dashboard that we created for the project. Everyone, if you have your phone, you can go to water.pluspool.org, and it shows you how we're tracking the water at the pier, and it tells you how great the water quality is there. So it tracks salinity and pH and the oxygen and the bacteria and all kinds of different things. So it's a public recreational resource, and hopefully it will be something that people can enjoy and look at the water and see that it's really not as bad as people think the majority of the time, and when it is, you can see what's happening. So that's...
Does anybody have any questions on Plus Pool? I know you did a presentation, but it's been a year. Oh, I see one.
I have one question.
Hold on. Alice, there was one in the back, and then you're second.
Where is it going to be on here?
It's sort of in the middle. It's actually being installed right now, so you can see it out there now. It's pretty much in the middle. I mean, in the water. It's in the water.
Yeah.
Floating in the water.
And Alice, next.
I noticed the Plus Pool was getting maybe a pass to go onto the East River area, and I know Community Board 1 lobbied quite profoundly to have it here. Could you just give us a little bit of an update on that?
Yeah, you did. So in the middle of this massive installation that we're doing, it's a 50-foot by 50-foot sculpture we're building. We also found out that the city released an RFP for essentially a self-filtering pool. And, you know, I can't speak to why the city proposed the area that they proposed, but, you know, we are so grateful for your community and all the support you guys have given us. We want to continue to work with you guys. You know, we are excited about finally the ability to share our vision. You know, we've been looking for a site for a very long time, and the city's
seems like this might be something that we could work with, but I know that you guys put a lot of love and attention into it, and we're so grateful. And I know that the proposed area that they're saying is slightly out of the district. So you know, I don't know. I can't speak for the city, but all I know is we want to work with you guys still, and we love you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. Todd, thank you very much,
Yeah.
Karen. Todd, fine? About Little Syria?
Oh, and I should add, I will be at the Seaport meeting on Thursday to talk about what's cool there and advocate for that. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Yes, hello, yes, I'm Todd Fine. I'm the president of the Washington Street Advocacy Group, and I'm also representing the Friends of the Lower West Side. We're a community group and a preservation group that advocates west of Broadway, east of West Street, south of the World Trade Center sites. And I'm coming to speak in favor and support the resolution on the preservation agenda regarding asking LPC to take a further look of historic sites in that area. Last year we were one of the Historic District Council's 6 remember sites, and part of that award we nominated a small historic district in this area on Greenwich Street and Washington Street, including the Downtown Community House, which Community Board 1 has passed several resolutions in support of over the last 2 decades, and we've never had a hearing on that. And that resolution, or that attempt to get a historic district was again rejected by the LPC, which caused us to do further research into systemic issues of historic preservation in this part of the city. And looking at a coalition of national groups that studied preservation in this area in 2003, the Lower Manhattan Emergency Preservation Fund, which proposed that 40 sites be included in a potential historic district. We did the research looking back at what has happened with these sites and discovered that 35% of these recommended sites for preservation have now been demolished or are about to be demolished. And so only 10% 4 buildings south of the World Trade Center site have been landmarked since 2001. So we anticipate that it's possible that basically all low-rise buildings in this part of the city will be demolished in the status quo. And it's necessary that the LPC do further research and engage with Community Board 1 on this matter.
I have a quick question. Don't you have a list of those buildings?
Yes,
Okay.
those are in slides that I provided, and I also produced a 30-page report historicizing and explaining how this all occurred and what have been the factors in this area, which I can share with anyone in the panel.
Thank you.
Yes.
Bruce?
Yes, good.
Always supported you 100%.
Absolutely.
And we still do 100%. Just for clarification, I do want it noted that our community board is the second, we have the second most designated landmark districts and individually designated landmarks in New York City. So I just have, that's a fact. So I just have to put that into perspective. For what we've been struggling for the last 20 years, I want to note that it's not all these failures.
And we completely support, the Preservation Committee has been such supportive of this over many years, and so this is not a CB1 problem, this is a systemic problem in the city. But the only rejoinder I'd make to that is we may have a lot of individual landmarks, but especially in this part of the city, we do not have historic districts. And that is what protects most of the historic buildings in the city are the historic districts. And so in the financial district, there isn't really a historic district. So there may be a lot of individual landmarks, but in terms of total building, it's smaller than places like Greenwich Village.
And also, this is original New York, so we have as much, more than
Absolutely. And when the World Monuments Fund reviewed this in 2003, they made the argument that Lower Manhattan, this downtown financial district, is probably one of the most important, is the most important historic location in the United States, arguably. And so the fact that there is so little preservation, from our perspective, is worrisome. But of course, that can be debated.
Thank you, Todd, very much. We're going to ask David Goodman to come up. Thank you very much, David. And after David, it's Bob.
Thanks, I'm David Goodman. I've lived in Rector Place, in Battery Park City since 1998. I was at one of your meetings before advocating for bicycle lanes on on Church Street and West Broadway, and thanks for your support. We have safe bicycle lanes in and out of our neighborhood. I'm here again to advocate for street safety, this time for pedestrians. Since 2002, my family and friends and I have used Rector Street Bridge to cross West Street on our way to and from 3 subway lines in the Financial District and lots of other places. About a month ago, I learned the bridge is scheduled for demolition in connection with the construction of another bridge crossing West Street diagonally, with the west entrance some distance south of West Thames Street, pretty far from Rector Place. The new bridge will be an asset for people living, studying, and working in Battery Place and Little West Street, south of West Thames. To me, it makes no sense to create a new safe crossing in one part of West Street and then remove one that's used more than any other. The new bridge isn't a replacement for the Rector Street Bridge. It's thousands of people who use the Rector Street Bridge every day will cross West Street at the busy, dangerous intersection with Albany, or the even more dangerous intersection with West Thames. There they'll share the right-of-way to the pedestrian paths with heavy car traffic turning north and south into West Street. Cars are turning and pedestrians are crossing, and they're all using the same space, guided by traffic lights. I'm told that nearly 2,000 people have signed a petition asking the city to preserve Rector Street Bridge. I don't know exactly what community boards do in detail, but I think one of your missions is to represent community sentiment to the legislative and executive agencies in the city government. So I'm here to ask you to let the EDC and the City Council know that the community strongly advocates preservation of the Rector Street Bridge.
Thank you very much, David. And Bob Schneck, you're coming on the same topic.
So I don't collapse. This, so I don't shake. Okay. So I want to take this opportunity to report on progress for the preservation of the Rector Street Bridge. We now have over 1,800 signatures, and that's what 1,800 signatures look like. We now have a wonderful letter from Margaret Shin, our council member, which advocates that we should have, it says here, a community engagement process that weighs all options and alternatives. We think that's right. And we have the good news that the bridge steps have been repainted, and also that the elevator is running consistently, which hasn't happened for the better part of half a decade. So as time has passed with this issue, I have a fuller and fuller appreciation of how bridges and underpasses save lives. We've conducted a survey to learn about the Battery Park City workers and residents who cross the bridge. We have learned that workers and residents do not think of West Thames as a replacement for the Rector Street Bridge, but at best an addition. 98% know that, since I asked them, that crossing at Albany is more dangerous, but in New York, seconds are precious in everything. And if the bridge were demolished, they will cross at Albany despite the danger. And they record their responses in that form. With 1,800 signatures and a plea from our council member for community engagement, we now know that our community cares. We also know that at the launch of the Rector Street Bridge in 2002 by government leaders, there was no mention of a temporary Rector Street Bridge. There was only a Rector Street Bridge, and I never, until very recent times, learned and was frightened by the fact that it could be removed. So what I've learned as a community board member is to keep learning and growing with a loving heart, never to feel fixed in a kind of position. And when I learned that the community board has passed the same resolution
over and over the years does not make that resolution into a commandment. So, as a community board member, I doubt that every member of good conscience here would find some vote that they would be happy to have changed and not to have made. And I can think of several in my case. So the real question is what are, I'm done, is what are our community's needs in the present, not 17 years ago. The bottom line for the community to ponder is, with what we've learned, if the Rector Street Bridge is demolished and one life is lost or one child injured, who is responsible? And do any of us care?
Thank you, Bob. Okay, Mark Levine from City Council. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Do I grab the mic?
Please grab the mic,
The one on
yes.
the end, if you would.
The one on the end, you don't have to sit, you can stand if you are.
Well, as a politician, I have to stand.
Stand and walk, that's what I would
Good
assume.
evening, CB1. I am Mark Levine, City Council member, represent Uptown, but I'm here in my capacity of Chair of the City Council's Health Committee. And I want to update you on our fight against the epidemic of vaping amongst teenagers and younger in the city. A fight that you have been very much engaged in. You were the first community board to pass a resolution to call for a ban on the flavors of e-cigarettes which are hooking kids. This is a problem not just in high schools, in CB1 and around the city, but even middle schools. We had kids as young as 11 come to testify in our hearing on this topic that they don't go to the bathroom in their school because they know all the kids are going to be vaping. There's probably no family, if you have kids roughly that age, that hasn't been touched by this public health crisis. Vaping is addictive, it's nicotine, it has other chemicals, and the kids are getting hooked by flavors like mango and chocolate mint and watermelon twist and even bubble gum, which are clearly designed to appeal to kids, clearly. And so we have a bill in the City Council, Intro 1362, to ban these flavors in New York City. And I am so grateful that CB1 was the first community board to step up in support of this legislation. Now you might have seen this topic has been in the news a lot in the last couple of weeks at the federal and even state level. And to his credit, Governor Cuomo has now put into place a 90-day moratorium on the sale of most flavors of e-cigarettes. I say most because he would still allow menthol flavors, which is one of the most popular with kids. We want to go all the way. We want to pass our bill to make this permanent, to make this cover all flavors, except for tobacco flavored, which adults could continue to smoke. While I have a minute or two and I'm here, I want to tell you that I'm with you in a couple fights that I know are very much on your radar. There are 1, 2, 3 new entertainment venues coming to this community at the World Trade Center, Live Nation, and others. That could create a traffic nightmare. We need to plan now for that before the venues are open, to figure out where the FH vehicles are going to pick up and drop off, to see if we need any extra mitigation plans. If I can help you on that effort, I'm a member of the Transportation Committee of the City Council. We'd be happy to join with you on that. And lastly, the bread and butter of community boards often is consideration of liquor licenses. And I think you have more than your fair share in CB1. You may have more than any other community board, or you're definitely in the top tier. Now, the state, of course, runs the liquor authority. I'd like to see the city government get more engaged in this, particularly in its role in noise monitoring. DEP, Department of Environmental Protection, has noise monitoring as part of its mandate. They should be out there measuring noise, particularly in the overnight hours. And precincts are supposed to also have a role in noise monitoring. They, reputedly, all of them have a noise monitoring device. Whether someone is trained to use it in every precinct is an open question. They need to be out there on Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. We need a reading on the noise from some of these establishments. Most of them are good actors, and that's great. But for the small number that are really not following the rules, we need to hold them accountable for the good of everybody and for the good of the broader nightlife industry. I'm happy to work with you on that. We're confronting this all over Manhattan, I'm sorry to say, and maybe we can work together on a citywide solution to really mobilize the city in this very important matter of liquor licenses. That's it from me. If it's appropriate and there's time for a question or two, I'm happy to take it.
I'd say yes, simply because those two items were the largest topics on our committees at the moment. I mean, I cannot tell you how
Really?
relevant. It's almost as if you had a listening device in our office. So
I promise I did.
Okay, good. So we'll take some questions from the floor. I'm
Okay.
going to start with Pat, who's our quality of life, and then I'm going to go to Jeff, who's our licensing.
Okay.
Pat.
Is that Pat? Hi, Pat.
Coming, and I was going to say the same thing, as your ears to the wall.
Oh my God.
I live around the corner from what is Live Nation's proposing, to use that venue. And I mean, we have lots of issues in the area, but mainly, traffic and traffic control when it comes to large venues coming into our community. So we will be calling up on you and thanking you in advance for anything that you can do to help us with these issues. We've got at least 3 or 4 venues, as you know, that are proposed. And
That is going to be a big problem. That's going to be a big
I
problem.
mean, we've obviously become a successful community.
Pat, I think we're at 5.
But thank you for coming.
I'll give you my card before we leave, and anyone else to partner on this. Thank you for your comments.
Jeff?
Yeah, perfect, what you're talking about. Some of these places, they are very large, well-financed, very difficult to fight. One, like you mentioned, at Live Nation or I think Stock Exchange. All we can do usually is negotiate terms, but we can't control, we can't control the traffic. We don't know. The SLA is not really going to listen to traffic issues. They'll take into consideration something, not a lot. So we need help there. And we just had, every month we get people complaining about places. They call up, they might get out of bed at 2 a.m., they don't want to, they'll call 311, the police, and they show up, the next day. So I'm sure.
I've gone head-to-head with Live Nation before. I chaired the Parks Committee last term. They were trying to do massive festivals in some of the parks. They have hired some extremely connected lobbyists. I won't get into too much detail on that. But there's some political juice there that we have to, I think, openly confront. I hope you're not experiencing that already, but I do worry that they will once again go into that battle mode that I saw them in this previous fight. But they've never encountered the likes of CB1 before. And I know that with proper organizing, we can head this off, and I want to join you in that effort, for sure.
Fantastic. I think there's a couple other, there's 2 actually. Go ahead.
You seem somewhat oriented toward activism, and I applaud that. And speaking as a community board member and a resident, I want to see our community board and our council people take up more activist issues, such as our climate change, climate crises, and not just have the mayor's office or the state do things, but also have our council members really push on banning single-use plastics, banning, all sorts of recommendations that if you can support banning vaping of a specific targeted thing, then we should be able to go after a whole host of things that are absolutely quality of life, recycling, overdevelopment. Like, where can't we go if we get city council help to push and let the community boards also?
I would love to work with you on those things. We do have a bill, you probably know, on banning single-use plastics. And it seems to be gaining momentum. I have a bill related to that, which would require Starbucks and other types of venues to allow you to use your own mug for the coffee and not to take one of their disposables. You'd be surprised what a fight this is in a lot of coffee establishments. But there's no reason they couldn't measure it out and pour it into your nice reusable. And so that's the bill that I'm the lead sponsor on. And we're hoping to have a hearing, I believe in October. I'll get back to the chair.
Perfect.
At the moment. I'll get back to the board on this, on these bills. The single-use plastic, the coffee cup bill, and 1 or 2 others. It'd be great to have Stevie One weigh in on that. We'll come and speak as testify.
Perfect. Jill, and my gosh, we have lots of questions for you today. So Jill, and then I think that's Mariama, and then Tricia. Jill.
Yes, in your role as the head of the health committee of the city council, is there any effort being made for the residents who are suffering from 9/11 related illnesses. And
Yes.
in particular, in this community, people in effect lived on the burning pile.
Yes.
We were told to go back to our homes while it was burning. Anecdotally, I am hearing more and more illnesses about residents. Also offended by the bigger picture where residents are not sexy enough to go down to DC, we'll send first responders, but I think there is a big issue here.
Yes.
And the anecdotal stories of cancers of people who lived on the pile are mounting.
Yes.
I'd like to hear.
Yes. Look, the word is survivors. Survivors includes people who were first responders. It also includes people who lived, worked, went to school in the surrounding areas. And all of them, all of you, qualify for help through the World Trade Center
But
Compensation
just
Fund.
interrupt you for 1 second, because I'm not talking about financial help. I'm talking particularly about residents,
Right.
and has there been a survey? What's going on with our health? Not the money, our health.
Historical documentation to see how 9/11 affected the people who live here.
And particularly the residents
Okay.
who slept and breathed in.
I'm thinking the answer is no, and there obviously should be that kind of survey. There is a big communications push now to help residents understand that they are qualified, but that's for healthcare and other things.
We're talking about
And-
something very different than the money.
Yes,
Well,
and
no-
I've been working on one angle of this, which is people who were in the schools here, either as students or as teachers and staff. There were dozens. They were told to go back to school within weeks. Most famously Stuyvesant and others. And we have, the DOE hasn't even cataloged who they are, let alone contacted them to alert them of these benefits. We, I think, have
Once
four.
again, not talking about the benefits, talking about a real and immediate situation with an extraordinary increase in the
I think
number
he's
of-
got it. I think the answer was no on
I'm going to reach out to the health
that.
department in my role as chair, and I get what you're saying, and I'm going to push it to mobilize their resources to attack this question. I get it. Thank you for bringing it up.
Kathy, do you need to tag on to that, or can we go to Mariama?
Related issue, I just want to put it out there as an example. Gateway Plaza has a substantial number of people who are ill. We're negotiating rent stabilization.
Right.
And, 6 months down the road, we may be in a position where people who are both sick and losing a home that they've lived in for 25 years because they can't afford to be there. So it isn't just financial, but there are a lot of other considerations as well.
No, well, good point. Thank you for bringing that up.
Mariama, you had your hand up?
Hi, yes, Mariana, I chair the Quality of Life Committee under tax leadership. I'm also on the licensing committee with Jeff, the Jeff chair. And I think when you speak about the vote, and I think they have a lot of similarities, the two issues, and that one thing that's been effective for us sometimes is that with liquor licenses, ultimately there's a limit to the number of liquor licenses that can be issued to a particular district or neighborhood or block even, especially if there are other considerations, schools, churches, whatever. It doesn't seem that anybody's put any thought into maybe assessing how many stadiums, essentially, a neighborhood can handle. What is the capacity
Like
of the
maximum
infrastructure?
density, right.
What is the
Yeah.
capacity of the infrastructure?
Right.
How do we know it can handle all of these large venues coming down on one small, historic district nonetheless?
And is this related to zoning at all?
So I think you can see, this is something that we would love you to come back and talk to us, because I think we could spend another 25 minutes just on this conversation, if nothing else.
I would love to come back. I hear you on this. SLA doesn't account for density. It doesn't, if there's 5 on the same block, it doesn't treat that differently than 5 spread out all over the place.
Well,
But
we have a task force coming up with, about special events.
You're
So-
talking about events.
And event venues, so we would love to invite you to come to that.
I'm there. I would love to do
That'd
that.
be fantastic.
Okay.
And even potentially licensing, which hears it.
Yeah.
Tricia,
Hi.
last question, then we're gonna.
Yes, I just wanted to, as you know, we passed a resolution on the youth committee supporting your legislation.
Thank
We're
you.
very grateful for it. I think, one thing that we're seeing with some of these pieces of legislation and a lot of great initiatives is the sluggishness of tying together those loose strings at the end. So what I want to ask you tonight is, in terms of this vaping, I have teenage daughters that let me know that the access regardless of the ban, the access will still be there unless the enforcement and the management oversight is a partner with that legislation. We've seen so many of these great ideas fail because of that follow-through. We have the same disease happening over with the World Trade Program. They advertised it, people came, and it's 2.5 years to get an appointment. You are seeing situations where you're diagnosed with cancer in May, and you can't get certified with the program until August, which means none of the bills are paid because you can't get reimbursement until you're certified. So there are all of these things that we're finding with these great initiatives where we need your help as well as the help of our other elected officials to have the follow-through on these.
Look, the city council has a bad habit of passing a big bill, popping the champagne, and then moving on to the next fight. And implementation is just, it's huge, and we need a lot of eyes on that. Look, we have already a ban on vaping products for people under 21. It's clearly not working, it's not being enforced. Your daughters probably know, maybe they're angels and they don't, but their friends probably know where they can go and they're not going to be carded for vaping products, right? That's why we just want these off the shelves. But even that has to be enforced. And we're going to make sure that there are so-called secret shoppers who go in to test this. Otherwise, it's toothless. And you're right, we're going to stay on this. And we'd like to help you think through the challenges on the WTC program as well.
Well, again, thank you very much, and we'll see you at licensing and our task force, so thank you.
I can't wait. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Yeah, be careful what you ask for. Bruce Ehrman, you're next, and after Bruce is going to be Roger, and then we're going to close the public session.
There are two things I want to talk about. I'll be brief. The first one is coming up in another forum in committee reports. I don't know if any of you saw the NBC expose on the Worth Street reconstruction project. I knew nothing about it. Wasn't involved in it. Didn't know that residents all along the corridor of Manhattan from Chatham Square to Hudson Street are incensed and upset, but not that organized. It was an expose. This is a problem that we've been dealing with since a crane crashed on Worth Street, going on 4 years ago. It's an utter boondoggle. The fellow from Stringer's office, the board and myself has approached Stringer to do an investigation. No real response. NBC reported that it's at this point, $30 million boondoggle with essentially no end in sight. In fact, Con Ed is now ripping up the street that a DDC had completely rebuilt with the water pipes and all the utilities because a dielectric fluid pipe, which runs cooling fluids from New Jersey across Manhattan, is too close to the new water main they just installed over the last 3 years. And I see a resolution in our package for a contiguous project starting the moment this dig ostensibly ends, for a combined effluent pipe that will begin in 2020. The same location. That will mean we will have been under siege for 8 years. Now, it so happens that, you're still here. There has been a micro outbreak of cancer, and the doctors who have spoken to these people say these are environmentally related cancers. These are people who did live through 9/11, but now they have lived through what will have been 7 years of daily construction, noise, debris, dielectric fluid spills. That's something we can address now, before the next procedure in 2019. That's one thing that I want to impress upon you. Perhaps you can help us there. The second thing is just, I've been on the community board long enough, and I'm old enough not to really care about all the ramifications of what I say. I'm just concerned that having been on this board for 20 years, that we are moving from advocacy to process. I see people who are elder advocates like Diane Lapson and others here tonight, leaving the board because we have become for one reason, because we have become less advocacy-based and more process-based. We have, Community Board 1, ever since 9/11, has not been a board about going along to get along. We've always been almost after 9/11, we were the government in this neighborhood. There was no other government. And we are slowly becoming complacent. We are about community advocacy, and I'm worried that the board is moving in the wrong direction. That's all I wanted to say, and I'm glad that there's an official impeachment inquiry as of 2 hours ago.
Roger, you're next. And Roger's going to close out the public session for us.
Okay, thank you. Roger Byram, I've been on the board also for 20 years. Bruce
Mike.
and I joined the same time. Do you need a mic? I need a mic.
You usually don't, but it's recording.
I've also been on the board as long as Bruce, and I just want to say a few personal words about Jeff Earlrich. As many of us know, Jeff decided to step down tonight after his service, and he thought about that over the summer. Many of us, myself included, tried to persuade Jeff not to do it, but we respect his decision. I just want to share some personal thoughts about Jeff's contribution to us. I met Jeff, I think, about 15 years ago. Jeff had a problem in his building, and still has problems in his building. As a long-time resident of Tribeca, Jeff has seen what we've all seen in Tribeca and in our districts. But Jeff, in having that problem, came to, I think, the Landmarks Committee and came to the board and made some comments and didn't quite know how to get our attention. And Jeff and I struck up a friendship at that time. And a year or so, 6 months or 9 months later, Jeff joined the board. And I just want to say, I think we all recognize what enormous contribution you've made, Jeff. Not just to the Landmarks Committee in terms of your very level-headed approach, but also when Anthony, wisely in my opinion, decided to bring all the licensing under one committee. And it's something that I've been advocating for the 20 years I've been on the board, because it's one way to defend ourselves on these SLA matters that we struggle with.
Yep.
When Anthony did that, I said to him, there's only one person that can chair that committee, and it's Jeff. And Jeff took that on, and I see month after month, 25 items, meetings going on till 10:30 at night, lawyers and lobbyists trying to run circles around us, and Jeff sort of diligently has worked so hard and so consistently to get our point of view across. One of the biggest challenges we always had was the SLA would not really recognize Community Board 1, even though, as we were saying, we've probably got some of the most ridiculous density of bars and event spaces and such. And Jeff has created such an atmosphere and a relationship with the SLA that on occasions when we've really needed to call that in, Jeff has been able to do that. And I just want to say thank you, Jeff. Your legacy will be very, very hard to follow. And thanks for all your contributions.
Roger, I would have given you another 2 minutes. You could have had mine, because I would have said the same, so definitely. All right, with that, we're going to close out the public session. Thank you very, very much. Everybody's seen the July minutes. A motion to adopt the minutes. Second? All fantastic. We're going to go straight to the district manager's report. We're going to skip the chairperson's report temporarily. He's on the way, but with UNGA, good luck when he'll get here. So we're going to go district managers and then into the nominating committee. All right, so Lucian.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lucian, I'm the district manager. Nice to see everybody here together. Just want to give a brief update, starting with the aggressive ticket hawkers. The borough president reconvened her working group this month. I was present for that meeting. Before the meeting, I was able to put EDC in contact with the Port Authority. The Port Authority is the official owner of the pier in Battery Park City. It's one of the last piers in Manhattan where the city does not have jurisdiction. So while the EDC was able to successfully put a process in motion to redo their contracts to disallow third-party ticket sales, the Port Authority, that process has not yet begun for the Port Authority. So in putting them in contact, the EDC was able to share what they had learned with the Port Authority, and they're going through the process to see if they can do the same thing. So that way we can have a complete elimination of any cruise line operating out of Manhattan, at least, where almost all the piers are publicly owned, contributing to the ticket hawker nonsense. Borough budget consultation. This year, I was the Manhattan coordinator for the borough budget consultations, where the Office of Management and Budget brings together district managers from our borough together with a select group of agencies. This year, the NYPD announced that the school crossing guards program was funded to allow for additional hires. I pointed out they were unable to fill all the lines in recent years. And NYPD responded they are doing outreach and a citywide advertising campaign. Minimum wage did increase, they pointed out, and with all that in mind, there's been a 300% increase in applicants. We have not yet seen those applicants translate into a full spate of new crossing guards for the schools where we have positions funded. So later in the day, we went with Small Business Services, which is a city agency that, among other things, runs a massive job placement operation. I asked them if they had met with NYPD regarding the unmet supply of crossing guard job openings, and they had not. I asked them to work on the issue together with the NYPD to combine their pool of job applicants with the open pool of crossing guard lines that have yet to be filled. They said they would do so, and so I'll be following up with them over the next month to make sure that they've made those linkages, and we can start getting those applicants in positions. Manhattan Paper Challenge update. The results for the first quarter of the Manhattan Paper Challenge are in, and we are handily beating all of the other community boards. This district knows how to recycle paper, but it's actually the increase. So the volume of paper that has been recycled in this quarter, the fiscal year, the first quarter of the fiscal year, has gone up 11%. In terms of weight, that's a difference of 81 tons. So we went from 706 to 787. There is no other community district that hits double digits. The closest one behind us went up 6%. So if we stay at this rate, we're going to blow everyone out of the water and win the Manhattan Paper Challenge outright. So keep recycling paper, keep encouraging your neighbors and institutions to continue recycling paper. We'll certainly keep urging city government. I'm sure they're one of the reasons why our numbers are going up, to recycle more paper. Summary sheets. Last month, all the full board members and public members received the entire list of liquor license summary sheets ahead of the Licensing and Permits Committee meeting. This is something that Jeff advocated for. We want to make sure that everyone has all the information that we can get available to them in a readable format in your hands. We have them anyway. Why not get them out every month before the meeting? It serves as a reminder. Please read through those. It adds a little bit of extra context. And so it's not just the names and neighborhood of the establishments, but you can get more information about some higher level ways that they wish to operate the establishment. And you may wish to attend based on what you read. Last bit, the new and improved licensing questionnaire is going up on the website tomorrow. If there are any licensing lawyers in the audience, please govern yourselves accordingly. We want you to use this new questionnaire sheet. We'll be pushing it out to all the firms and consultants that we work with on a monthly basis, but we just want to make sure everyone knows that there'll be a better formatted questionnaire up. And then with that.
Perfect. Before we call the nominating committee and start committee reports, I want to welcome a new board member, Michael Francoeur. There we go. Mike, sorry, Michael didn't catch you in the back there. Michael has joined us this month. He's on our transportation and licensing. So he got a fire bath welcome, as they say, this month. So welcome. And we still have, by the end of this month, with Jeff leaving, we will still have 3 vacancies.
I need this one more thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, everyone. I forgot to remind everybody, get your flu shot. Almost the entire staff got theirs. You can see Diana's actually getting the flu shot in the picture. And she was a good sport.
She's not pointing at her arm. What is she pointing at?
Diana. I think they're worried about me sneezing up here. All right. So let's get rock and rolling with nominating committee. Mariama, please feel free to take that lovely mic that's on the end. It's all for you.
Hi, again, I'm Mariana. I'm the chair of the nominating committee. And most of you know, I think everybody should know, that at our last full board meeting, we had an election, and Tammy Meltzer, who was then our secretary, was elected our vice president. So essentially, vice chair. So essentially, having to resign from the position of secretary, leaving us secretary-less. So we're going to have an election. The way that our bylaws read, we have 3 months to do so. And so we're trying to get it all done by next month, honestly. Elizabeth Lewinson has stepped up. She's the only person who has stepped up and nominated herself to run for the position of secretary.
Then that means assistant secretary is now.
Right, should she be elected secretary, her position of assistant secretary would be vacant. So
I'm coming for somebody up there. Just so you know, we're coming for you.
Please help.
So tonight, I am asking anybody that's interested in running for secretary and or assistant secretary to please immediately nominate yourself. Yes, and send us your information to the nominating committee. And then next month, hopefully, we'll be able to have at least the election for secretary. And then, from there, plan an immediate election the following month again for assistant secretary, if necessary. Thank you.
Fantastic. So we're going to go to Personnel Committee, and Elizabeth's going to report on that.
What is that? Oh, so executive.
You know what? We will do executive. Should we do executive or wait for Anthony?
It's okay.
Let's do executive. Okay. We've got the bylaws were changed. If you take a look in the packet, there's revision to streamline the non-district manager staff raises. Does anybody have any questions? Okay.
What is it?
This is about review of current bylaws to streamline. This is where OMB, and it's resulting in the duties of the chair.
Right. So this is going to revise the bylaws. I think that there was some discussion after this meeting, after the executive committee meeting, that maybe some language is missing. Vera, do you want to talk?
Right, can you read the language again? What is that?
So,
Elizabeth, what was the language?
So the language is, okay, here it is.
got your mic.
Under duties of the chair, sorry.
You got it.
Okay, so under duties of the chair, which is section 3BA, can you hear me?
No.
It's supposed to be on. Okay, so under duties of the chair, the language that we were going to add is, after consultation with the chair of the personnel committee, the board chair shall have the authority to act on behalf of the full board insofar as setting or adjusting staff salaries, other than that of the district manager.
We could just have a friendly amendment.
Yeah, so Vera has a friendly amendment.
Based upon performance reviews amongst other factors.
So you want to add based upon performance review and other factors?
Among other factors.
Among other factors. I'm okay to accept that. Does anybody have any objections to that? Anybody in the executive committee? Okay, great. Then let's call the question. And this has to be a roll call. I'm sorry, what'd you ask?
Other factors seem so vague.
Exactly.
So you wanted just performance review? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, unless you can be more specific about other factors, because that's so vague.
Well, I guess the question is, do you want to raise somebody's salary based on performance reviews alone, or among other factors? I mean, one of the factors to consider would be performance review, but then there are other factors too. You don't just want to limit it at that, do you? I don't know, do you have, do you have other language that you think?
Do you have other language you want to
Is there
add?
something that's not captured in a performance review that,
We could leave it with just a performance review because performance review should be able to capture everything.
Yeah.
It doesn't, okay. So we've got a motion, a friendly amendment, which I accepted, and then that's what we're voting on. So it's a roll call. You're on.
all right. Amoruso,
Yes.
Burton,
Yes.
Blank,
Yes.
Byram,
Yes.
Cameron,
Yes.
Chapman, Charkoudian, Chu, Cole,
Yes.
Kuchya, Cunningham,
Yes.
Curtis, Ehrlich,
Yes.
Ehrman,
Yes.
Francoeur,
Yes.
Frederickson, Friedman, Froman,
Yes.
Goldstein,
Yes.
Gupta,
Yes.
Jesse, James,
Yes.
Joyce,
Yes.
Kay, Cannell, Kettering,
Yes.
Copel,
Yes.
Lemire, Lerner,
Yes.
Lewinson,
Yes.
Mahoney, Markel, McHugh, Meltzer,
Yes.
Milhowski,
Yes.
Myhock, Moore,
Yes.
Notaro, Schneck,
Yes.
Safat, Starr, Sung,
Yes.
Tedesco, Townley, Wade, Weinstock, G,
Yes.
Zelter.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great, motion carries. So the next part of the executive committee that we talked about has to do with, it's the district needs statement time and budget priorities. So since it's that nasty ass document that we've all worked on for years that nobody really loves, but it really is very important to dig down in it so we can ensure the things that we want done in the district get done. And it has everything that we can possibly put on there. The office will be sending out to committees and sharing the link of what our budget priorities were last year. And there's a process for dates and times and things that we have to get the notes in. Keep in mind that this process is for fiscal year 2021. So we have to submit it in November or December. The first draft comes back to us in the spring, and then June 2020, we get a final for 2021. Any questions on that? Okay, perfect. Let's move on to Personnel Committee, and we're going back to Elizabeth.
Yeah, I'm gonna let Lucian actually.
Okay, we're gonna have Lucian do it.
Contract, so I'm gonna let him talk about it.
Here you go.
Hello, everyone. So I want to go through briefly go through the Personnel Committee resolution. The consultant contract is back up for renewal. This time, it's going to be done as a micro purchase, which is below $20,000, which means it's not registered with the Office of the Comptroller. The changes that were made principally are that there's still two people on the consultant team. One person is dedicated to licensing matters at 30 hours a week, and the rest of the hours, which is 7, it's a total of 37 hours a week for the two of them, are the other consultants dedicated to the other committees. And then also there's a slight increase in pay, so it comes to $19,980. The following 6 months, we'll be putting out an RFP again for a 6-month with a 6-month extension. So we're going to be working on that. But for this contract, this is just a 6-month single contract. Does anyone have any questions? Mr. Zelter?
Is it just this contract that will fall under that micro definition?
That's right.
Yes.
The future ones
The
also?
future one will not be a micro contract. It'll actually be over 20,000, so then it'll be registered and go through the RFP process.
Bruce and then
So
Susan.
I'm on the personnel committee. We discussed this 2 months ago. For personal reasons, I was not able to attend this month. I will vote for this, I just want to state that the first whereas, in order for Community Board 1 to better receive, process, there's that word process, and respond to opportunities for discretionary action. A micro purchase was negotiated, et cetera, et cetera. This is exactly what does that mean? This is what I was talking, this is a little micro version of what I was talking about at the microphone. I don't know what that sentence means. It sounds like a Sean Spicer press release.
Licensing.
It says nothing.
Licensing. All the paperwork and everything that has to get done in licensing.
So that's what receive, process, and respond to opportunities for discretionary action means?
Discretionary action are usually, it includes items which the community board is asked to give an opinion on. So we have an urban planner for ULURP, zoning, BSA, but for licensing, landmarks, and things like.
It's not just licensing.
Right.
No, of course
Well,
it isn't.
it's not just, but
The 30 hours is, could we cut
Please.
to the chase? Jen is the 30-hour person.
Okay.
Is she not?
Let's be
Okay, let's
good.
be real clear.
Now I
And the
wanna-
7-hour
okay.
person is Ramesh, am I
Great.
correct?
Currently,
Yes.
yes.
So everybody has to know what's going
Right,
on.
what we're doing. Thank
So that's what it is at this moment, and we're very fortunate, and they're both very good.
Now I
Okay?
understand.
Can we
Good.
move on?
Would be wonderful to say that.
And Bruce, to your processing point,
What?
Anytime.
to some degree, I mean, I agree with you that,
you've got to speak into a mic.
People can't hear.
to Bruce's processing point, we need, I mean, I agree with you about the advocacy, that we need more of it.
I'm sorry.
All right, I'll talk to you about it afterwards, okay? You can't hear.
Okay, so with Susan's comment, I'm going to call the question.
Yes, now I can absolutely.
This is, thank you, Bruce. This is a hand raise, so all in favor? Any abstentions? Any recusals? Vote passes. Perfect. Moving on. Let's call Tricia up and, oh, do you need to do the OMB policy changes before Tricia starts? Lucian?
The OMB? The OMB policy changes item was just the personnel committee opining on the language for the potential, at that point, potential bylaws change, which was then, that opinion was given to the executive committee, who fully formed the language and voted on the resolution.
Tricia, you're up. Please take the mic.
Thank you. So you're going to see a resolution, two resolutions in the packet. Please ignore the resolution for the Trinity Place traffic study. I want to apologize to everyone, because a day in the life of this youth committee is like a year sometimes, and the things that happen between the time that this paperwork is done. So I am going to work on that, but to Bruce's comment about process, I made some decisions about developing different strategies to be more effective in my role. Because if we keep doing what we've done, we're going to get what we've always gotten. And that's insanity. So we're not doing that anymore. So I will share with you that between the writing of this, we also, not only did I decide to table that till October, because I've scheduled 3 important meetings this week to garner more support. Before I write a second resolution about the same thing, I am going to make sure that it is a slam dunk. And I'm doing that by soliciting the right kind of support that will make this a very powerful resolution. Pat?
Yeah, because I do nothing about this.
Yes.
And I need to consult with
You need to talk to us, I need to have a meeting with you, and I'm meeting with a bunch of other people that will help inform that question that you have. Exactly. So this is all going to happen between now and October, so we're going to disregard that, but we are definitely going to pay attention to the resolution supporting Community Board 2's resolution.
Hold on, your next resolution is dyslexia.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
So we have had a wonderful thing happen after years and years of hundreds, thousands of our children falling through the cracks and being diagnosed with dyslexia in 4th grade, 7th grade, 10th grade, most prominently. We are now rolling out, the DOE has agreed to roll out a dyslexia screening evaluation at the kindergarten level. One of our local schools, PS 234, has been chosen to participate in this pilot. We still have funding challenges, but the fact that this got off the ground at these 19 schools this fall is nothing short of a miracle. I am very grateful to CB2 and their partnership in this. It's always more powerful when you work together, which is another one of our new strategies. And so we are basically supporting Jeff, who I want to introduce as our new co-chair, by the way, Jeff Mioch, who's no stranger to everybody, but he is our new co-chair, I am thrilled to announce. And he helped us write this resolution that is supporting CB2's resolution. Does anyone have any questions?
Call the question.
I guess we can go to vote on that.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
Betty?
Because I'm very troubled by this resolution. And I want to make clear what it is that I oppose. So I'm not against grants yet being addressed. That's not my problem. This particular issue, especially when you look at number 6, with the items A, B, C, D under it.
On their resolution?
No, actually, I think it's goes on a long time.
Okay.
Physical equity, teacher, nursery.
You're talking about the Community Board 2 resolution. You have an issue with what they've written.
Yes, with passing it, it's still put lock, stock, and barrel since one relies on the other.
So I'm not following, I'm sorry. Can you say it again?
Because the CB1 is reporting what's in the other one, it doesn't really matter where my concern is at this particular point.
We're not aborting it. We're not aborting it, we're supporting it.
She said supporting.
Oh, I thought you said we were aborting.
No, she said supporting.
Okay.
I'm concerned because, one, I am not qualified as a professional to judge this very prescriptive, specific approaches that are in private companies to boot, which I don't think a CB1 should be promoting that DOE goes out and spends money on a private company to train the teachers. I know from my own profession, there are multiple ways to skin the cat, and they're not all the best for everybody. Different approaches are used for different people to get the best outcome. So to be so prescriptive about not saying more care, more treatment, but very specific, that you're going to do this, and then you're going to do that, troubles me a lot. This should be a lot more open-ended, especially from non-professionals, talking about a million people in the public school system. I find that problematic. So again, it's OG training, so specified. I can't endorse that, and
Okay,
I don't know why.
I appreciate your support. I think one of the concerns after sitting with CB2 to discuss this is that we had a lot of people delivering services to support dyslexia that didn't have a degree. And so the Orton Gillingham and the Wilson methods are the only certified methods to support dyslexic students that have been approved in both public and private schools in the country. And so what the baseline was in terms of CB2, but not exclusive. In other words, there are many ways that children need to learn, and learning differences aren't being compartmentalized by this resolution. Instead, we are creating a baseline for these children so that they get some consistency in the support that they're receiving throughout the city. Right now, it is all over the place, and a lot of children are falling through the cracks and being moved into private schools because the public schools are not able to fulfill their needs because they don't have the teachers trained properly in the degree that they need.
You want to have a certain level of certification.
Betty, let's take that offline, because I think we're ready to call the question.
It's certainly a valuable opinion, and you're welcome to come and discuss it with us, because it is going to be ongoing at our committee. We would love to see you.
Perfect. So, call the question.
Second.
All in favor? Are there any objections? 1, 2 objections. Any recusals? Any abstentions? 1 abstention. Okay, thank you.
And then we are postponing also. We had no representatives come to discuss the electric school buses. We're hoping the city council will send someone in October. We'd love to talk about that. And the Parks Over Plastic, Bob did follow up with me, and that will also be on our October agenda. You'll see item 3, we had originally thought about creating resolution. CB3 is going to be creating a resolution in October, and we will be supporting that resolution. The school is about to go into, it is it's right on the border of our community district, and it is an overflow school for our schools here, which is why I felt it was important to weigh in on, if anybody's wondering. So they're going to create their own resolution. We are going to support it. The school is about to go into massive construction. They will not only have no play street, they will have no windows. They will have no daylight at all. So it's going to be critical that we support them in that. Let's see what else. I think that's it. So we'll report back next. Oh, I do want to make a report. It's going to be in the October agenda, but I'm getting lots of email. Yes, we have another crossing guard challenge. Lucian, thank you so much for the work you have done. This is another new strategy I'm trying. We pulled in the mayor's office, and they were very responsive. They have taken without notice Peck Slips crossing guard, moved that guard to PS 276. They did this because they deemed PS 276's issue more severe. This is not great practice. That crossing guard had relationships with that school body that she had built over time that were very special and important to that student body. And so it's a bad precedent to be taking from Peter to pay Paul on crossing guards. But it continues to happen because of the way, the failures of the way crossing guards are being handled. So I just want to report that I spoke to the mayor's office. I have demanded 100 full-time guards. I would like to know who they are, and the supervisor. I have demanded.
How do you get 100?
100 full-time guards.
For what?
As part of Mayor de Blasio's Vision Zero.
Citywide.
Citywide. Okay. I was like, what? I'm like, do you know more schools I don't know?
Citywide.
You're crossing guard immediately.
100 full-time, 200 part-time. I have demanded that we see full-time guards, given the complexity of how our schools are being positioned and the fact that we are in ground zero with 30,000 extra residents, and we need to see these people. We have sustained 5 years of crossing guard failures, and someone's going to die.
Perfect.
So I actually got a response, and they are also on the October agenda. So
awesome.
I wanted to mention that.
Paul?
Just had a question. Are you planning to take up the issue of gifted and talented programs possibly being eliminated? That's obviously a contentious issue. I suspect people in this district would have some opinions on that.
I am meeting with the CEC on Wednesday, tomorrow. So I do have a lunch talking about both that and the high school specialized test.
But you want to take it up in committee?
I may very well take it up in committee. I just want to gather my information. So I'm going to have a visitor come as well from the CEC.
Perfect. Thank you, Tricia. We're going to back up to the chair's report. Anthony, thank you so much. Diana, do you have slides ready? Fantastic. Anthony.
I apologize for being late. Won't happen again, but forgive me. It is my obligation to do a chair report, so I will try and be very brief. I like to put in 2 sections, what's happening and priorities. So what's happening? Borough consultations have begun. Lucian Reynolds has been coordinating for all the community boards in Manhattan, and you'll hear more about that. It's critically important that we put items into our budget or into the city budget as our request. Interim flood protection, Seaport. Well, that's being installed, but on Thursday this week, there was a competition at the borough president ran, and on Thursday they're going to have an unveiling of the finalists on South Street between Pine and Wall Street at 8 a.m. I think we sent that around, so keep an eye out for that. Seaport advisory meeting. We had one back in August. And there were 2 topics on that meeting. First and foremost was the scenario of July 4th of not having access to the rooftop or the pier to 16 and 17. And the second item was about the engagement by Howard Hughes on their finalizing their master plan. Now, we didn't get everybody at the meeting for the 4th of July. But I'll give you at least what our initial research has come up with. Howard Hughes may have committed a sin of omission. However,
you can also lay a lot of blame at Macy's and the mayor's office. They hijacked our property. They knew about the ULURP access. However, they took Howard Hughes out of it. They declared Homeland Security and exigent issues by the PD and Homeland Security. I actually spoke to the commissioner's office. I got nowhere there. That was pretty much a stonewall. But we're going to continue that discussion. We have assurances that that will never happen again. In fact, Howard Hughes is now so embarrassed by it, they will never let Macy's come back to that property again. On Thursday of this week, at Pier 17, Howard Hughes is starting the first of 3 community engagements on their master plan and the fact that they've hired Skidmore, Owens, Merrill to both help them with finalizing the master plan, but potentially designing something at 250 Water Street. And that's not done yet, but that potentially could be the role of SON. So there's about 140 stakeholders that have been invited. I haven't seen all the content. We have an outline. Diana and I at least spoke with them, and we know who's being invited and wanted to make sure that everyone appropriate, all stakeholders were. So that's happening Thursday. And you'll hear more reports of that. In fact, Howard Hughes is also committed to coming back to our committees to update them, update us on everything that comes out of that. A little bit of good news. We have, well, good news and bad news. We have a brand new member, Michael Franklin. Michael, did you get introduced?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. I introduced you a second time. We're happy to have you join us.
It's good to be here.
That's the great news. Sad news is, and it came out in the press, our beloved Jeff Ehrlich has decided not just to step down from licensing, but to leave our board over, what, 7 or 8 years now? 13 years. Seems like yesterday. So I want to give a big round of applause for everything he's done. It really has been spectacular work. And it's going to be hard to fill his shoes, but Susan Hole is stepping up as chair of the Licensing and Permitting Committee, and she'll be joined by Megan McHugh as co-chair, and also Mark Amoruso as the second co-chair. Thank you, Mark. See Mark there. I haven't seen Megan, but we're very excited to have them there. I think we have a report. Oh, let me just jump to it because it's along with that. Lucian last night at the Personnel Committee, based on input from the Personnel Committee, presented us with a contract for the next 6 months for our discretionary action consultants. The good news is we're going to have a dedicated person. I think everybody knows Jennifer. She will be committed at a minimum of 30 hours a week to that committee. Now, we don't know that that's the final solution. There's probably other process or workflow things we have to work on. But I'm confident that with Jen and Lucian and Susan and Mark and Megan, we'll figure out how we need to address how that committee works. So I jumped off of something, and there's another new person. I offered a public membership to Jill Woodhine. Jill, stand up. I think everybody knows Jill. If you don't, she was the power behind Tom Woodhine. And she's going to take her passion and expertise and join with us. We're going to move the Housing Subcommittee from the Land Use Committee over to Pat Moore's Committee of Quality of Life. Jill will be part of that, and we'll hear more and more about how that committee will start to delve in some issues. Because you're seeing more and more press about tenants winning lawsuits based on the 421A issue. And Tom was a passionate advocate on that issue and had done a lot of research, although you probably did a lot of it too. And so we need to make sure that every one of our residents is aware of what that court ruling says. Bylaws, I think we have a simple bylaw. You went through that? Budget. Well, I woke up to see an email from the city, this group, and another, or 2 more community boards have been chastised or criticized for the way they handle money. Now, I know that Joel has done a lot of work with Lucian, myself, with Lucy particularly, and we accounted for all monies that we had. Last year we had also a $42,500 grant from the city council. Our budgets have not been increased for probably, I would say 10 to a dozen years. Every once in a while we do get a grant. Last year we did, this year we'll have another one. Fortunately, OMB and the city council has sent out guidelines to all community boards as to what you can and cannot do with that. I distributed it to everybody. Myself or Joel or Lucian are happy to answer any questions. We use the money almost predominantly for our consultant contract. There are a couple of other items that we update you all about over the year, but almost all of that money is spent on consultant contract. People like Jen and Ramesh, and if we need outsiders. It does not allow, it didn't last year, it doesn't this year, it doesn't allow us to address salary action of our current staff, and surprisingly, it's not enough to put on a full-time person, simply because it's a one-time grant. I mean, you might say, well, the $42,000 will probably cover a full-timer, but it's not guaranteed year over year, so it's not a good plan. If you have suggestions, talk to me, Lucy, Lucian, Joel, we're happy to hear any ideas. Let's move on to the next one. They're kind of not necessarily in order, but we're trying to launch a couple of task force or working groups. The first one, the borough president has been spearheading this for the illegal ticket hawkers around the Battery. But as you probably all know, they're not just around the Battery. They're in Battery Park City, they're in Fidei, they're in the Seaport area. Kind of, you know I talk about the jelly donut. You push one, put your finger here and it pops out somewhere else. We're going to continue with that. Pat Moore and her committee have done a lot of work on that. It is a very difficult problem. I want everyone to be aware of that. It would be simple to have a simple solution. It doesn't necessarily exist. Simply because enforcement and the laws that govern this are not clear. I mean, they give out tickets like crazy, but it's a cost of doing business for many of these vendors. And the tour operators that they are working with or selling their services, it's almost like Uber or other companies where these are contract workers. They actually don't work for the people they're selling their tickets for. So there's a lot of legal issues that we need to work through. Event space. We talked about this at Executive Committee. We have lots of these coming up. We had some great ideas last night. We do want to have a working group or task force. I will be calling on that. I know Pat Moore is passionate about moving this project on. And we had some great ideas last night. Even one about including some of the event space people that are here. And let's get them involved in helping us craft some guidelines. I mean, there are some things that are as of right, but there are things that we should work collaboratively with them on. And then our famous subject, and this is one that at our next meetings I'm going to be handing out football helmets to everybody, because everyone's favorite subject is congestion pricing. Well, I have a little bit, I know we all have an opinion, but you know what? The governor settled it for us. He put it into the budget, whether it's realistic or not, and he established some secret society to help with the guidelines. So we're not here to vote on congestion pricing, yes or no. Unfortunately, that was taken out of our hands. But what we can do is say to the governor, to this commission, to our mayor, to the MTA, here are things that we need to consider if we're going to live. How do we get shared benefit out of all of this? Where's the money going? How do we track it? I mean, I can go on, but it's a critical issue, and I know we all want to argue about it and have our position, but having a working group come up with some ideas and collaborate with everyone will be very important so we can formulate our position. Everyone has their own position, but we as a community board need to take a stand and then drive that through. city charter ballot. I think somebody sent me an email. We sent around, there are 5 questions or propositions on the ballot. I know when you go into the booth, it's often confusing. Often those proposals are on the back of the ballot, and sometimes it's hard to understand what they are. There are 5 of them. You can vote individually or jointly on them. I'm going to join, or our board is going to join with several of the Manhattan community boards to try and develop a forum to educate everyone on what are the pros and cons to each of the 5. I, in fact, was asked to try and get the PBA down, which one of them is about the Civilian Complaint Review Board with the police and individuals. So they're very important ones. I think everyone has seen the ballots. If not, we'll resend them out. But look forward to late October having a forum available to everyone. Urban Fellow, we'll talk about that more. I don't want to go through this time, but Diane and several others came up with some ideas. We think we have a good plan for what the Urban Fellow will do. We're waiting to get approval from the funds for the city to have that Urban Fellow. We don't automatically get it. The way it works is we send in what we'd like the fellow to work on. The fund has this pool of urban fellows, and they get volunteers to come up and say, oh, I'd like to do that project for CB1. And they come, and we interview them and have an agreement. So that is yet to happen. And at the next meeting, I'm sure Diana will be happy to update you on what our proposal is. You jumped the one. The unveiling of the interim flood protection will take place this Thursday morning. If you're up at 8 a.m. taking a morning walk, pass by and take a look at that. So, you know, I'd like to throw in a couple of pictures. We will have more discussion about this because for years we have had issues with cobblestones, resurfacing, rebuilding, repairing. What's the difference? And I picked this up out of one of our local papers, but I also noticed this one day when I was up on 14th Street in the Meatpacking District, where cobblestones were being replaced, but at the crosswalks, they were using a granite material that was much more user-friendly for people who might not have the same access or ability that we have. So that's a topic that I know the Transportation Committee, I know Laura Starr was very involved with it. Lucian did a lot of work on that. You'll see more of that. Let's go on to the next one. The lighting's not lit. The Hudson River Park has sent out a request for expression of interest, RFEI. That's not an RFP. That's to see who would be willing to take on a project, if they in fact develop an RFP, is for berthing historic ships. And it will only be, the RFEI right now is only for a part of Pier 25, a small part of Pier 26, and then another pier much outside of our community. Just wanted to give you that update, and I'm sure Paul will be able to explain more of that going on. I know we'll hear more of this. Here I am shoveling this proverbial dirt. It's probably my occupation. But this was the opening of the groundbreaking for Lisbeth Plaza and Park. And it's wonderful to have a new open or green space on in Greenwich South. And I know it will have impact and both opportunity and some challenges for the school that will be built right next to it. So you'll see more of that. You know, I don't know if you all get the Battery Park City broadsheet. I do, I live in Battery Park. But Matt Fenton, who's the primary writer there, does a wonderful job of researching. A lot of his pieces are very fact-based rather than opinion-based. He did some research on the average speed of buses all around New York, not just Manhattan. His title, and I stole it, if we went any slower, we'd be going backwards. He claims the average speed of a bus in CB1 is 8 miles an hour. I will tell you, I looked at the portal for Class Mapper, and MCA will actually tell you it's probably around 4.5 miles per hour. So I'm not here to harp on congestion pricing, but boy, we do have traffic issues in CB1. So let's move on. This is a little editorial. For the last several years, I have worked with the First Precinct Community Council, and every August there is something called National Night Out. We did it again this year on Pier 16, 17. The borough president came down. By the way, we asked, I didn't realize what we were asking for, but we had a musical band from NYPD. It's a Latin band. They are men and women from PD, from every country in Central and South America. They put on a performance that was unbelievable. So, stay tuned for next year. Hopefully it'll be even bigger and better. Last thing, Bruce, probably dear to your heart, opening this week of Lower Manhattan Cultural Council, their new headquarters or operating base on Governor's Island. So this is a major institution within our board taking a spot of cultural significance on Governor's Island. I'm sure Bruce will tell you all how wonderful it is and come and visit it. Do I have any more? Oh, I sent this out, Junior Ambassador. This is a program where the city was working with the United Nations to have teams within the city act as ambassadors at the UN. So you probably all have that. And if you have questions, let me know. Let's move on. I heard the tail end, Trisha talk about this. I saw this piece, and I think it's a wonderful thing. We know how wonderful Manhattan Youth is and Bob Townley, but every once in a while they do some things that are just fantastic. Here was a fashion show of clothing made out of recycled plastic. I encourage you to talk to Trisha, go to that committee, talk to Bob, but I think that's such a positive thing for our young people here in CB1. And going along with that, sure enough, last week, Strikes for Climate Change, not many of us, we may all talk about it, but young people got out in CB1 and stood for what they believe in. So I applaud all the youth in CB1. And I'm done, thank God.
You were long tonight.
I was long.
Yeah, you were long, sorry.
Well, I've been hooked up all day.
There you go. All right, let's move on to landmarks. Let's have, thank you very much, Anthony.
Thank you.
Landmarks, let's have Roger.
I couldn't make the meeting, so Jason's going to...
Jason, you're on.
Okay. Great.
Use the one at the end.
So I don't think we had anything controversial, but we had 2 friendly amendments, so we have to take those maybe separately or something. We had, let's just do the one building that we did, is at 244 Front Street.
Yep.
It was not controversial, and everyone seems to think that it was okay. And then we have what's titled the Historic Preservation Civic Center area, but the friendly amendment is to call that the LPC request for evaluation of Manhattan Criminal Court building at 100 Center Street.
Can you send the text
Yes,
directly?
I can do that. And then on the Little Syria Washington Street Advisory Group resolution, the final whereas on the first page, we wanted to add that the commission reviewed the proposal by the Lower Manhattan Emergency Fund with Ken Lusterbader as consultant, somewhere in the middle, right after that last whereas, which I can send you also. And
Perfect.
That's just a factual thing.
So it's a friendly amendment on the left too?
This is just wonderful woman, Alice, I think she's here, I can't see her. She left? Oh, yeah.
It's not coming from you.
Awesome. I like the kumbaya, so are we taking all 3 together?
Alice, you know
Yes.
you were a beauty.
Okay, so Jason's going to give us the language that he just mentioned, but
Right.
since they were all non-controversial, we're going to take them together. All right?
Right.
All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Any recusals? Woo-hoo! Love it when it comes together.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Very much so.
Thank you very much,
Okay.
Jason.
Yep. I'm gonna just get this in order.
All right, so I'm going to go super fast from here for Battery Park City. We tabled the Lily Pond, West Thames Bridge. Update is that it is open and functioning, but EDC will come back and tell us what their final opening date will be when all parts are complete. The elevators are operating, the permanent staircase on the west side is up. There's a temporary staircase on the east side while they're working on a couple little issues, but they'll come back and give us an opening day. Pier A came and presented. They have a temporary pop-up for outdoor seating for their Blacktail property. It is being installed on the southwest side of Pier A. They've relocated some of the public seating and have now made the seating that is all the way around the outside of their property all public. We will see how that works in the coming months. But they would like the outdoor area for Blacktail to work to help drive additional knowledge that there is a secondary bar there. If anybody sees, just let us know what you think. Convene is going to be covered in licensing. And then for Allied, we had the ups and downs of homeless people in Battery Park City, working with outreach services and things like that. Rockefeller Park is under renovation at the moment. They're working on the playground area, replacing like-to-like equipment. So that is in progress and done. And I see Nick sitting there, so I'm going to put his feet to the fire. PS 89's equipment will be in supposedly shortly and be able to reopen. And that's all my reports from Battery Park City. Mark.
You tabled the wildlife issue. What prompted that? They needed protecting? Any incident or anything happened?
Year 3, the ducks have disappeared.
So they just never came?
No, they were there.
Oh.
They were there. There were 2 mother ducks. Right. There were 2 sets of baby ducks. Right. And then there were lots of feathers and no ducks.
Oh, when did this happen? I didn't hear about it.
I will put you in touch with Mr. Ehrlich, who knows all about it, and another lovely lady. So we're going to have this conversation.
Yeah, you know me again.
Exactly. We're going to have a conversation next month about potential things that we can do for education and security. All right. Anybody else have any questions about anything for Battery Park City? Fantastic. Love it when it goes fast. All right. Quality of life.
Okay, so.
Pat, there's a mic on the corner for you.
I don't know. Do I need the mic or can you hear me? The second item was canceled. The FDNY didn't show up. So we have the resolution. But first of all, Bruce.
I'm listening and I'm reading.
So we were
and I'm
told.
circling.
We were told by Liz that
Just
you were
table.
extremely happy with the outcome of what had happened in front of your house. No? Yes?
Yes,
Okay.
that's a micro issue and.
Okay, I didn't get to read this article that you spoke about, but Lucian and I will get on that.
It's on WNBC.
Okay.
I can distribute it.
Would you please?
Yeah.
Okay.
The issue in front, on our block was simply, they were forthcoming in putting in new sidewalks after all these years. And by the way, one of the new sidewalks that they just finished putting in, according to this resolution, will be ripped out next year.
All right, well, they didn't tell us that, so we will do further investigation. But this resolution is mainly to get ahead of an upcoming project, to try to make sure that we are informed about what they're intending to do. And of course, you know, you pretty much come to those meetings, so you can fill us in on what's going on because you are the eyes on the ground.
I am going to say that in regard to this resolution, very much surprises me. And I know, Pat, that you are an advocate and you are proactive, but this is the kind of resolution that concerns me. There's no historical reference here. This is exactly the same location as has been worked on.
Now, I thought it was more in front of 60 Hudson.
It's exactly the same location. It says between Leonard,
right,
north of Worth Street,
right,
and Thomas directly south of Worth Street.
Right.
So it encompasses the 2 blocks on the west side between Thomas, Worth, and Leonard, which have been under construction since 2015. the exact same.
Now, these are on the sidewalk, these are not in
Yes,
the roadway.
and the sidewalk
Right.
has been closed for most of the time
Okay.
during that period. The west side of West Broadway in that stretch has been closed or half open most of the time. And they finally poured a new sidewalk between Worth and Thomas on the west side of West Broadway
All right.
2 weeks
So
ago.
you know what,
And now it's
let's
being
take
ripped
it
out next year.
offline, but what are you proposing? Are you proposing that?
What
we-
I'm proposing, first of all, the closure of sidewalk in some, not all the way, may be avoided.
Do you want us to hold on this resolution and
I
rewrite
think,
it?
I think it has
Okay,
to be
so
a
why
much
don't we
stronger
table this
resolution.
resolution?
We will not accept any of this until and unless.
Okay.
Hold on a second.
So there's a
So
30-day window for
we table.
comment for this project for the
And we don't
DEC.
say anything now, we won't make it, because the next time we
So
meet,
when we
we'll
talk
be
about
after.
advocacy, I would say that if you want to make a friendly amendment to these,
That would be.
Let me ask this.
Let's look at that.
Why in a project that DDC, the carpetbagging, boondoggling, forever company that just scams, that's part of the city, why do we only have a 30-day window? For a project that is contiguous with the Work Street reconstruction project and begins the
That's you.
process in a
Oh,
year
there's a mic
after
right
this
there.
one is done. Why are there only 30 days?
But we do.
Whose decision is that? And why were we notified only within a 30-day window?
I believe that's the law, that the law of the city of New York requires them to give 30-day notice for input from the community board when they're at this juncture of project design.
And they can't come before. They can't voluntarily know, they can't come before. Is that correct?
I am not an expert on that part of New York City law, so the question would be to our
Since we have
legislature.
the 30 days, what would you like us to say that would make this resolution?
are you looking to make a friendly amendment that's
Yes,
saying that
yes.
30 days' notice was insufficient?
The project, okay,
Let's add that.
that's one whereas, thank you, that's good. The project is scheduled for bids in fiscal year 2020 with construction targeted to commence in the fall of 2020, exactly when the Worth Street reconstruction project is scheduled to end. What is the end date projected for this project? That should be appended. What is the extent of the closure
I
of the sidewalk?
thought it was a 3-month, I didn't bring my notes, I left them on the table.
A 3-month project?
I thought it was a 3-month project.
It's not, they're not moving sewer lines, they're just replacing the combined sewers.
A section.
The question was, how long? Not that
Okay,
they're-
I believe they said 3 months. but we can add
They never give you a firm number, they always say, well, it could be 3 months, it
Right,
could
so
be.
if they say 3 months, add a 0, basically.
All right, so you want to know the duration of the project. and
While
what
some of the
we want.
noise and inconvenience are inevitable, the bulk of those impacts must be avoided.
This is insufficient?
Must be avoided when DDC and utilities such as Con Ed work with CB1 to create mitigation plans, etc. I think must, not maybe, they must be.
Okay.
So Bruce, are you looking for another friendly amendment that says basically, since there is since there is construction
Take it or leave it.
by other city agencies at this particular intersection, that
It's the same city.
It's the same.
DDC.
okay.
They decided to string it out another 3 months or 5 months or
All right,
whatever.
I mean, it's supposedly a new project, a different project, but, so the two friendly amendments are, we want, first of all, to know the duration of the project, and
We need
what
to
was the
add.
other?
30-day notice was not
30-day
sufficient
notice
for the
was not
community.
sufficient.
The bulk of those
Sufficient.
impacts must be avoided. When CB, must be avoided. And CB1, I think, must do more than request, and should therefore be, I don't know, urges, demands, requires, insists, strongly urges, something like that.
Requires,
Okay,
requires.
those are my.
All right, so that's the last be it resolved, says
Mariama
require.
wants to say
Miriam?
something.
We did try to ascertain what was going to be the duration of the project, and they were insistent that because they hadn't
Started it yet, but I thought they said approximately, I thought it was 3 months, but, yeah.
And
And we all know that, again, as Bruce said, no matter how long they tell us it's going to take, it is going to take
Right,
longer.
so now we have another year not to be stonewalled this time. Maybe this time we can get it.
All right, well, they'll be back in November.
And the
I
last
hope you'll
therefore
be
being
there.
resolved is
And we will,
CB
once
one
again,
requires.
so can we vote on this as
So,
proposed?
all friendly amendments have been accepted, Pat?
Yes.
All right, so let's call the question. I think it was second. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Recusals? Motion passes.
Okay, so the other thing is a new business at the end of the meeting. Mark is going to bring up a film resolution that he's proposing that actually I looked at and I agree with. And then I'd like to say something about Jeff. Jeff at one point was co-chair in quality of life and he did a fabulous job. He's become a really close friend. I also tried to convince him to stay, but I understand when it's time to go, it's time to go. You will be missed, but I will be calling you and Susan to have drinks.
I want to be there too.
Thanks for everything you've done.
Okay, so that brings us to land use and zoning. Mr. Cannell, Patrick. Patrick?
Oh, Fern's doing it.
Oh, Miss Fern Cunningham.
That's me.
Oh, darling, you're not a stand-in, you're Fern. Let's
I
go.
don't have to, did I say, do I have to sit at this table?
No, you can wander, you can walk, you just need a mic.
It's pretty, yeah, I'm not very loud. Geez, let me find them, that would be helpful. We have 3 amendments from the land committee. One is pretty straightforward. It's a yoga studio that's opening at 57 Leonard Street. There was really no reason to object. And the committee voted unanimously for it.
So do you want to take that one? Do you want to take
I think we could probably
take them all?
Take them all? Okay.
Oh, wait.
I have a friendly amendment, I'm sorry I didn't see it. Remember that? Before on the, you're taking them all together, just a small point, but I think it's.
Which one, Alice?
It's, sorry, 105 Wayne Street.
Yep.
Yeah.
In the last whereas, we had quite a bit of discussion overseeing private parking signs in public, the privately owned public space, you might recall.
Yeah.
And this didn't seem to be recognized at all in this resolution, so maybe the easiest thing to do is the last whereas.
Dyslexia, I think was the first one.
Whereas 51 members have expressed concern over relocating the bike rack, blah, blah, blah. And members expressed concern that signage for private parking be allowed in a privately owned space.
Very important.
That was certainly discussed and quite.
Yep, that was discussed.
It was discussed. Didn't they say it was grandfathered in? Because it was there.
I don't recall.
would be allowed by zoning accessory sign.
Exactly.
They didn't give us any resolution.
Why not? Is there a reason not to leave it out? I mean, why not put it in?
We can put it in this as whereas the community was concerned about private signs being accessory signage.
Right, it's huge for private parking.
Well, wait a minute, with the new rules about the pop signage, I don't know if that was flawed.
Oh, that has nothing to
According
do
to
with
city
it. This
planning,
is
she said it would.
This isn't the new signage, this is a parking sign.
But is it something about privately owned?
It's a private sign for a private parking garage.
This is a private garage that has a sign in the public space. And when we spoke to Allison Brown for DCP, she did say that this is not the usual thing. And we didn't get any further, it was simply that we wanted to recognize that that was an unusual thing to be doing. to have
So then
a
let's-
sign in the public space.
Well, I mean, I understand that, but either okay with it or you want it out, just to recognize that it's there.
Well,
Do we want it out?
I don't remember how it got, I think we just simply, we were identifying problems. One was the bike rack, one was the private sign, and I think that was all, I don't know.
Well, here's what I'm just, maybe I'm a nitpicker. If we want to deny that, we should say it. If we're just bringing attention to it, no one's going to pay attention to it.
They're deny it resolved, that's, okay.
Can't find the
Yeah, I'm okay if we say we don't want it.
We can't find one.
We didn't come to consensus at the meeting, though, that the sign was, that's the problem, is we didn't come to consensus in the committee meeting that we didn't want the sign. There were people who didn't like the sign, but there are other people who said it's the only way to find the garage. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look,
I think we have to let the operator continue to have a sign, and the building probably would want that too. They probably rely on revenue from that operator, so I don't think
Plaza.
That was the only place.
It's related, public plaza.
But that was the only place visible that you could actually see it the way they want to reconstruct the park.
Okay, just for background information, that's Trimble Street. It's not really Duane Street. We're talking about Trimble Street. It's a one-block, narrow lane between Duane and Thomas.
Right.
That's where the parking lot is. It's been there since,
But the sign's been there.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Technically,
It's
because the
in,
parking lot abuts, is adjacent to and contiguous with the plaza. I'm against all kinds of intrusions, but the lot's been there for decades.
Exactly.
Since the building was built. Where's the operator going to put a sign? Where?
Anyone cares. Nobody cares. No one cares.
Oh, then why are we discussing it?
so. Let's keep moving.
all right, so let's move on. Let's move on. Mark?
Not on this
Well,
subject,
I care,
different
it's a
subject.
bad idea.
No, let's stay just on this
Oh,
resolution.
so we finished?
So people do care about it.
So let's,
No,
all right.
It's a bad idea.
We
What-
never
what-
settled
what-
on anything.
What would you do?
We did.
I'm just, I really brought it up is that it was quite a discussion, having a private sign in a public space, and I'm just
Right.
thinking, if you're gonna write a resolution, we did pass it with.
I don't disagree with you, but
Just to acknowledge it,
make an
say
ask.
members expressed concern about bike racks and the signage. We didn't stop the signage, it's just to have a record that so when the next POPs gets done and we have a large parking sign or something else, we're on record having noted that a public lot.
and that's all we are, is on record of saying we saw
Right,
it.
well,
Either we oppose it or we
I
say
just raised it, it was a discussion that didn't get picked up, that's the only reason.
So we can go on record
We can
saying,
also have them.
I'm going on record to add that, but
are you, it's up to you, Fern.
I don't know what it's going to do in the future.
It's just a memorializing.
I hope not to be here, you guys will argue about it.
40 years ago.
Okay, Alice,
We'll make the
verbiage.
change.
Alice,
That we
verbiage.
noticed that the sign was there.
Yeah.
So Alice, send us verbiage, please. And so, Mitch,
Could you just add one, on the last one, the bike rack beside the sidewalk, just also put and the street, because the street right in front is all the fire department, they park there.
they're not putting the bike rack on the street, though, they're putting it on the sidewalk.
It says besides the sidewalk, meaning that it needs to remain in the plaza. There's never been a complaint for the last 25 years, and so I'm happy to see that whereas, but just make sure that they don't try to put it on the street because it would be impossible.
They said they weren't going to do that.
Right.
Yeah, they already said that they weren't. They already said that they weren't putting it on the street.
Who's they?
City planning.
They were there?
Yeah.
Tammy, just for the record, they also said that there were steps leading into the plaza, which means to go for the bikes. For everybody that's not familiar with that area, there's entrance route, the floor is like this, there's no steps.
Fern,
There's only
up
steps
to you.
on one side, but the other side is completely flat, so that was a mistake on the
Yeah, Betty over there?
Betty?
I bring it back to the comment about there being a sign, private sign in public space and not being against it. In fact, is an endorsement. So it would set a piece of precedent. I want you to realize that what it's doing is you're saying.
Take it out,
it's okay.
I find that if we're trying to acknowledge what was said in a meeting and you don't put in what was said, it was a little hard to understand why not.
But we didn't take a
Probably
position on it.
In other, resolutions, but I just thought there's a record. I'm not sure I agree with your point, Betty, but I'm happy to take away my amendment. It seems to be controversial for some very unknown reason, but.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so can we vote on this now?
Yeah.
No friendly amendment or friendly amendment?
What do we want, just the one resolution?
Let's just do them separately so we can move faster.
Okay.
Okay? Let's take the physical culture at 57 Leonard.
That's what I have a question on.
Go, Mark.
It seems like, over the years, we voted for these things, without a problem. It's a dance studio, yoga studio, it's not a bar. But I've noticed lately, and even in landmark districts, is that when they're on the ground floor, they put curtains on all the windows. And it looks like a dead space. It almost looks like it's a vacant storefront. And I'm not sure how we can address that. But I'd like to, just because these come up in this land committee, to have that on your checklist of questions. is, are they gonna, have the windows closed or open? In other words, curtains blocking the windows. You can't even look in. There's one particular one on Hudson and Wayne. Used to be the TD Bank, now it's a yoga studio. It's a corner. I mean, it's completely black curtains all around for like 30 feet and 20 feet the other way. So I don't know how we can
It's a
address that.
topic worth debating, but it's probably a separate topic. I would not put
So
it
can
into
we,
this one.
we just want to have this committee address that.
So do that
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
next
so-
committee meeting.
Okay.
On your checklist,
So
and
we're-
if there are any rules governing that, particularly in landmark.
He just said we'll do
Mark,
it at the next meeting.
Mark, we'll do it at
Yeah.
committee. We're voting now. Okay, 57 Leonard, all in favor? Any opposed? Any, Mark is abstaining. Any recusals? Perfect. All right, now we're going to take 105 Duane, calling the question. 105 Duane's the public, the Pops, all right? All in favor? Any opposed? One opposed? Any recusals? Any abstentions? Fantastic. Now we're going to Pier 17 roof access.
Well, this one was kind of interesting. This came out of the 4th of July debacle, and Saul came over, and the concern was basically the community doesn't know how to get onto the public space when there's an event, because it's not clear, there's no clear signage. People have been up there when there's events. They have the escalators, the elevators are hidden in the back. You can't find them. There's no way to, just go up on the roof and have a good time.
The only thing that's missing from this resolution that we also said was, and therefore be it resolved, not only do we want install conspicuous signage, but we wanted the information of public accessibility to be on the Pier 17 website, because it's nowhere there.
That's correct. That's not in here?
I didn't see it.
Okay. I think we should add that.
That's fine.
We did say that. We absolutely spoke about that, so it makes sense to add it.
You have another question?
No, it's a therefore be it resolved that they need to list the public accessibility on their website and social media.
Yes, Susan, you have a question?
Yes, Susan.
I just want to be able to say, maybe this is not the place, that all the open view corridors are closed. We cannot, see. We were promised to be able to see, you can't see. So you're closed off. And I don't know whether it belongs here as well, but our access, as we were supposed to have as community, is not happening.
I think that's a valuable thing. I would do it as a focused, separate piece, though. Putting too much into one gets them not to do anything. Just, let's get the signage fixed, and that's an important thing, just to be on the agenda.
I'm not great beans to extend this, but just point of information, didn't we talk about also having them promise a liaison for noise at that meeting?
Yes.
I believe we did.
Yeah.
And also, almost like a concierge, that they can show you
So I'm not sure if that was not to be reflected in there.
So the last therefore be it resolved is that Howard Hughes Corporation agreed with Community Board 1.
I don't know either way, but I just remember talking about it extensively.
I thought they agreed to have a dedicated person available to answer public questions.
So it should be there.
Yep.
had a concierge.
Yep.
I do pay attention.
I don't think I understand what we're about to vote on. When my experience was that the police prevented people from having access, a sign wouldn't have helped me. I needed tickets to get somewhere, according to the NYPD. If there was a sign, that wouldn't have helped me to get to.
But that was incorrect. We're supposed to, he clearly said we're supposed to have access at all times.
Now, I do recall that, but it was NYPD that impeded the access in my experience.
We're not just talking about July 4th, we're talking about generally.
Right.
Having
Okay, that's what I'm trying to
on the
understand,
roof,
what it is we're
they
voting on.
close off access and their employees don't allow people to come up. They even acknowledge that.
Yeah.
So it was Howard Hughes that instructed the police to
No.
block?
No, it was
No, no.
just really getting access to the roof. when, in general, and particularly when there are concerts or something else, not just 4th of July, because they shut down the elevators are first of all hard to find, but they don't let you go up the escalator, and that was the issue, being able to get access to the roof the way we're supposed to, whether there's an event there or not. That was really the big deal, because we were supposed to have access to it at all times, whether you were ticketed for a specific event or not.
And they agreed to that.
And
They also said if there is a continuing problem, let them know, and they give somebody a phone number or someone that they can call that
They
day.
said that they would have a dedicated person
Yeah, and a phone
that you
number
could call,
doesn't
and a
bother.
phone number.
Yeah.
Okay, so is everybody clear now on what it is? So we can call the question? Great. All in favor?
Sorry, did you add a second point?
I added 3 points. List the public access options on website and social media. HHC agreed to provide a public concierge contact with phone number. That's the public contact person.
I have a question. Who's getting this resolution?
Everybody involved, HHC, the city council person who was there, everyone involved. EDC,
Are we voting?
the police. Yeah, let's keep voting. All right, so this is as amended. Call the question again, sorry about this. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Anybody recused? One recusal. Anybody abstaining? Fantastic, motion passes.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Good job.
Cool. We are rock and rolling along. Alice, you're up next. You are.
I thought you were perfect.
After Alice, Betty's going to go for transportation. Grab that one right there.
Okay. I'm sorry, I don't have my notes, but okay, we have, yeah. So, we had a presentation here, it was a full house, 250 Water Street, and, the remediation, the draft remediation investigation work plan. Want to make it clear, it's a draft. We have a 30-day comment period for the public to opine on this plan. And so that started on yesterday, the 23rd, and it goes till October 23rd. So this is submitted by the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. They were here in New York State Department of Health. And remember that it's 250 Water Street. This was Howard Hughes hired Langen to do this work. So Langen presented. And basically, we can go to the next slide. What is remedial investigation? So this was described, and I have to say it was I thought it was an excellent presentation, very fair and very comprehensive. So it's to investigate and characterize the nature and extent of the conditions of the site. It is nothing more than that. It is not looking to clean up the site yet, it is to do an investigation. They went over all the details of what that entailed, and of course, ultimately provide the information to evaluate the potential for what's there and what will happen, how will it get cleaned up, which is the next step, which will have a 45-day comment period. So right now, we're in the 30 days to come on this. This presentation is available online. I think the DEC site is the best site, and we also have it here at the community board. So please do look at it, all 300 pages, and respond if you have something to say. So, okay, here we are. So there are different ways that they're going to use to assess what's on the site. Some are just simply ways to look at the utilities and structures below the site through these geophysical surveying, utilities, ground penetrating radar. Next. And there's quite a bit of description of each of these. Of course, soil boring and soil sampling, very important part of this, obviously, to see what's under the surface. Groundwater investigation, and the vapors. And we've heard a lot about the vapors. I'm sure you all know about the discussions about mercury. Next slide. So the 4 areas of concern, they even get a name, AOC, areas of concern. That they've known about through the earlier investigation. So historic fill, meaning there's natural fill and then there's stuff on top which has, potential toxins in it. There's the potential of petroleum underground storage tank, which I think is there, but is there an open spill?
the historical thermometer factories, which you've heard about, that are proven to be there, I think, or assumed. And so just this slide does a good job of showing you some of these things. That's what the perceived thought is where the tank is. These are the thermometer factories. And these are the borings that are going to be taken. These squares you're seeing are 50-foot squares. So there's some concern if there are enough borings. There are about 35 new borings on the site, but that's the basic plan. That's basically it. If you want to pour over it, it's actually probably the best of all the drawings in terms of what's really going to be reviewed underground. Next. So community protection, of course, that's our main issue. What exactly are we setting up to protect ourselves here? I have to thank Children First. They have been tremendous advocates and really, really energetic in trying to make sure that due diligence is done here by Langen and the DEC and the DOH. So anyway, there's this community air monitoring plan camp, and there's 4 stations, next slide, which will be set up at the 4 different streets. And there's some concern, is that enough to monitor what's going on at the site? We were assured it is. There's a little bit of back and forth on that. I'll go over what the main concerns are in a minute. These are they're going to look at the mercury vapor, and 10 micrograms per cubic meter is considered the allowable by this group, but there is again concern that is too high an allowance, and that Children First has asked for a much lower allowance, which is something that we're going to consider. I think in our resolution, which we have not yet written, the committee has not yet done that. We're just looking at everything before we write that, right? And next, reporting. Right, so these will all be reported monthly, you're reading here. And I think, is that it? Okay, and the schedule. So the public comment period I've just described. So the investigation itself is going to be a little bit drawn out because they promised that they would do this off school hours. As you know, the site is next to 2 schools. So they are promising to do these outside of school hours. Well, of course, that's tricky because, school's on a lot. There's after-school programs and such. So they're working on a schedule, which they, of course, will ultimately reveal to us. And the preparation of this report, the final report, is 12 to 16 weeks. So these 30 days are the time to comment. The main concerns that were addressed by Southbridge Towers, Children First, and Save Our Seaport, and thank you all for doing that, are the following, and I think we will include these in some way in however we respond, but I'll quickly go through them. They want to complete closure of the parking lot during the investigation. There's been some suggestion of tenting the area when the boring and drilling is going on, recapping the boreholes immediately with proper materials, performing intrusive work only when the schools are closed on nights and weekends, limiting mercury to 1 milligram around the perimeter of the site and not 10, adding monitoring sites to certain streets in the neighborhood, adding temporary monitoring stations across the street when ground intrusive work is being done, notifying the community immediately when the job site is shut down due to excessive contamination, preparing an emergency plan with the community, and making all the site documents available online and sharing the drafts with the community. So these are, I think, some pretty fair ideas and recommendations by these concerned groups and by our community. So as I said, we will be looking at as a committee at the next meeting, so we're in time for the October full board meeting to review the resolutions to what we want to include to give to DEC on this particular application for the draft. Perfect. And then just the last thing I just want to, one thing, I think you already covered the paper challenge, and thank you, Lucian. And then the last thing is just a reminder, October 3rd is the next Environmental Protection Committee, and in addition to reviewing this, the most important thing is this is an incredibly important meeting where we will have the Office of Resiliency come and speak about all of the resiliency plans for the peninsula of Lower Manhattan. This is not just like a small committee kind of, intimate little review. This is a major city review, and it really, all hands on deck, in Bruce's discussion of, advocacy, this is the time to advocate. We do not want to just be process-oriented and looking at this as a reaction to what we're going to be given, but we really should be involved, and everybody in every committee should try to be there to really look, ask questions, really engage. I hope that many of you can be there. I assume it'll be in a bigger room. I don't know yet what that'll be, but I just,
email goes out, specific email letting us know about this, reminding us.
yes, we're getting the nod from the powers that be. Okay, thank you. Yep. Oh,
And I'm
sorry.
just confirming,
Yeah,
that's Thursday, October 3rd, not Tuesday.
Yeah, I see what they're doing with the air monitoring. Is there any concern about water runoff from the area, especially when it's open?
They did address that. I'm not going to be able to answer specifically that question now, but I'm happy to get back to you. It is in the report, and yes, they are looking at it. They absolutely are looking at it.
Can you send around that presentation that the
Abs-
slideshow?
Oh, sure, yeah, that's no problem. Yep, it's on the website too, yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
awesome, thank you very much. We're gonna do Betty reports, and after Betty, Mr. Ehrlich.
Thank you. I can see it. First of all, we have an addition to make to the street code naming guidelines that were recently passed. You'll see in red are the added words. We realized because of people asking, sorry the color's not as popping out, but it's adding historic events and places. It's come to our attention, and this was an oversight. It wasn't something the original group dismissed. And I will tell you, it's historic events and places is added to the individuals and organizations which have already been voted on. Then below it, and I'll read it for you, but those are the criteria for judging those applications that come based on historic places or events. And that is, the measurements are actually threefold. One is the historic event or place must be recognized as significant by a historical society or other appropriate group. Two, it has to have been mentioned in a major film, book, or international news story, which is usually, especially how tourists come out looking for sites. And three, to be identified on a widely available map at or near the proposed site.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Can we call the question? Fantastic. All in favor? Any opposed? One opposed? Any recusals? Any abstentions? Joe abstains. Okay, fantastic.
Great.
That's it. Betty, you want to report on any of the others?
Yes, we had DOT came to talk about the Frankfurt Street bike lane. It is a two-lane, so you'll see here. It was to connect Brooklyn Bridge to Chinatown, which is up to Worth Street. It is a two-way bike lane. It was mostly completed in 2018. If you go to the next one. We are just dealing with the very last segment of it. As you go up and around Pace University and just connecting to Park Row. And if you look around, you'll see a lot of it is actually open now already. That's all they were telling us. The second thing DOT wanted to talk about was the Lower Manhattan Transportation Study. And the catchment area is the overlay, the dark colored area. So it's mostly FIDI, but includes in the Seaport. Their real focus is FIDI. What they want to do, I want to get over what they're doing with the key points. They're going to, while doing the study, and they're going to have stakeholders from the community involved at all levels. But they're going to find up to 4 potential pedestrian priority zones. There will be 1 pilot location. It's the key thing to understand. And this will conclude by June 30th of 2020, their fact-finding, mostly done by a consultant group. For those who don't know what pedestrian priority zones are, I gave you a list of some of the things in the toolbox of the DOT that they will be considering and trying to match to the various points in that catchment area. And the other thing you might find a little interesting about this, they're going to a placard pilot program in conjunction. So again, it's going to be really focused around FIDI for this pilot. And we were told that there's going to be a 7-person DOT unit that's going to do placard control enforcement instead of the NYPD, which is what used to be done in the old days. So that's going to be interesting. They have many steps to do, and there's going to be a lot more to report because they're only just beginning. They want to relook at the rules around placard issuing. They also want to look at the actual using decals instead of paper. They're going to go through the whole system of placards and how it's enforced.
Oh, yeah, just for the record, DOT stated that in this plan that they don't plan to eliminate any traffic lanes. So, just for the record, keep it in mind.
Yes, ma'am?
Just with regard to the bike lanes, I don't think anybody put any consideration into the fact that when these bike lanes were created, and then the ones where they added like parking, which is basically in the middle of the street, if you are transporting a child, a senior, somebody that has trouble getting out of the car, they're having to have that trouble getting out of the car into oncoming traffic, because now you can't pull over because the bike lane is there. It's really ridiculous. Just want to put that out there.
It is.
That's something that's definitely
Not just that, but when you step out with a young child, the bikes are whizzing along.
Right.
With no notice requirement, no requirement to stop.
Yeah, the child is on the driver's seat, they're having to get out in front of bikers that are just going by. And otherwise, their other choice is to get out into oncoming traffic.
Bikes kill people too.
Yes, they do.
But if you have a buffer between traffic and bicyclists,
Right.
bicyclists are more safe. So if you're aware there's a danger, as you are when you inherently leave your house, you can mitigate that danger by being aware of bikes coming along and not opening your door into the bikes, also harming the bicyclists. So everyone hates the bikes so much, we all want to have less of a carbon footprint. That's how you get us.
I welcome all of you to join Betty at Transportation.
Yes, and I would tell you, the method of opening a car door when you're in a bicycle society, you reach across and use your right hand, you reach across yourself and open the door, because that forces you to turn and look at who you're opening that car door into. Because you can really seriously injure somebody who's going by outside your door.
Okay.
So keep in mind, there are changes that we all have to get accustomed to, a lot of people
All right.
sharing the streets. Next, congestion pricing working group. This is merely a reminder that you were sent an email by Diana. Those of you who might be interested in serving on it, please let her know this week so that we can start moving on from that by knowing who's interested. So, this is a reminder.
Make sure you send an email. Don't just tell Diana at a meeting, hey, I'm interested. Make sure you send her an email because
Yes.
there's 50 of us. Yeah. All right. Betty, you good?
Diane?
Yes.
As someone
Awesome.
actuarially, statistically term limited in terms of lifespan, we seem to be only about 3/4 of the way through its.
Bruce, if you wouldn't interrupt, we'd keep going. So hang on a sec. All right. So let's welcome Jeff Ehrlich. This is his last report for us. We have had many members say many wonderful things tonight about Jeff, and I want to point it out for the record that when a local newspaper reported about your retirement, the amazing comments that came from the public was about gratitude and grace. So on that note, be kind to Elizabeth, who's taking notes today, and let's get rolling.
This may be easier than normal.
Woo!
First, Roger and Bruce, I have to respond somehow. I very much agree with Bruce on that this should be a place of advocacy. And the reason I got on the board 6 months after I met you, Roger, it was not just landmarks, the landmarks issue, it was a licensing issue also. And I met you and a few others, I met Pat, and I thought, who are these people? What are they doing for free? And I call at 10 at night and they answer, and you showed, you really showed the path on that licensing. There were 150 people in the neighborhood that gathered around that. And the best advice you gave me at that point was when you stand up before the board or the committee, stand up, make your point, sit down. So on that, Mark, there's 2 resolutions here that you wrote.
So are you taking any together?
We can
So
take these two together.
First 2.
They handed you separate. Did everyone get
Okay.
one?
Yes.
Okay.
Wait.
So first, just let me say
62
thank you
Thomas.
to Jeff for all your help and support
3
Oh.
and
over
5.
the years.
Yeah, I
and
guess that's-
Definitely
that's the
gonna be
first two.
missed, but,
Okay.
yeah, we called it 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
too.
The
Sidewalk
All right,
Cafe
so
and the
the
consumer
genesis
affairs.
of these two issues, this was on the agenda of CB2 last month, so I went by to see what was going on about that. And they kind of a little bit kind of self-explanatory. Fortunately, Department of Consumer Affairs, two issues, they have if you have a sidewalk cafe now, you have to bring the tables and chairs in when you close at night, right? Inside the building. So now they're looking to change that regulation and not require that. So the tables will be out 24/7, quality of life issues, all that stuff. We're not really commenting on it too much. You list some concerns and asking Department of Consumer Affairs to please come tell us what are they up to. Second one, also Department of Consumer Affairs, was the Small Business Services is looking to eliminate the, when you have to go in for a sidewalk cafe, there's a hearing at Department of Consumer Affairs. This is where we send our resolutions, have public and come and talk about it, and so can we. So they want to eliminate that step in the process of application. So I don't think there's anyone here who thinks that's a good idea. So again, we're asking, we have concerns about that, eliminating this step in the public process for the public to comment on any issues that they might have, and we're asking them to, of course, come see us before they make any decisions.
Are we ready to take the vote?
A little typo on the Department of Business Services one, the last whereas on the first page. Public review is not a concept that is outdated or an unnecessary regulation. That's from their language. They said it was outdated and unnecessary. So we're saying.
You'll give that to Elizabeth? Just
Yes.
write that down, give it to her? Great. You ready to call the question?
Anyone has questions?
On the first resolution, is there any reason at this stage you don't think we can say we're opposed to what's being proposed?
Only being cautious because it was preliminary. I went to board 2, they didn't even vote on it, they just gave a report and forwarded us emails that they had correspondence with DCA and SDA. I mean, I'd be happy to do that, but I'm just being overly cautious that we didn't even hear about it. I don't know if you want to,
Yeah,
we hadn't heard about it. I only found out about it on the CB2 agenda.
yeah, so to be clear, it's not a rules change process that's going on. What DCA has done is they're changing their guidebook. They must have been challenged by one of the permit holders because the guidebook used to say they had to bring it in. And now they're changing the guidebook to say DCA recommends that they bring it in, which is far less forceful, but there's no underlying rule to back up must bring it in. So there should be a codification through rulemaking, DCA, to make that an actual rule.
So when you're granted the ability to set up a sidewalk cafe, there are no rules governing the equipment that you're putting out?
No, there are many.
But that specifically, whatever was in their guidebook was not backed up by an actual rule.
Sidewalk cafe and regulation guide.
What does that mean? Not backed up on it. God, can I speak?
Yes, yeah. Mark, you're in charge.
Yeah.
So, I know a lot about this, I do this for a living, but doing this for the developers, so I know the process really well. I hear both sides, it would be the worst thing ever, okay? And no, they cannot, oh God, don't put me in the paper, you want me to have a job tomorrow? I mean it.
Just
This
say,
is for my
you're representing
community.
yourself.
I'm representing myself in the community, not myself. The point is that a lot of the times they don't want to take it away, right? Because they don't have anywhere to put it, because they have, maxed out the zoning, right? They just don't want to do anything that is helpful to the community or good for the city. So what they do is they say, oh, I have nowhere to put it. Well, guess why? You maxed it out. They won't clean the sidewalk. It will be a tripping hazard. It will create the homelessness. It's already a congested city, right?
Okay, so let's turn this around and ask Mark. I think Andrew made more of a friendly amendment, is that? That says to change the wording in that Community Board 1.
So on both of them?
is opposed to any regulation
Yeah,
change.
as soon as possible. So then we'd have to, so on both of them, we'd have to be, therefore be a further resolve that CB1 opposes the implementation of these changes.
Absolutely.
Correct.
On both of them.
Absolutely.
That's fine. yeah.
Andrew, does that work for
So-
you? Mark, that works for you?
That's fine, that's good.
Then let's call the question.
Okay.
Okay.
All in favor? Sorry about that. Any opposed? Any recusals? No, any abstentions? Great. Moving along.
Thanks, Mark.
We did. Mark, please get all the wording that we added to Elizabeth. Thank you.
Okay, number 3 is a report on the process. Lucian already said a lot of what's been changing. I and Susan spent a lot of time with the staff in August and into September, particularly with Jen, who did this great job trying to streamline some of the processes, our documents, all this stuff. Plus, I also should say, Jen, we met on last Wednesday, and by Friday, Jen had pretty much turned around all the resolutions, gotten them written. Thank you.
Yeah, all right, let's do one full round of applause for Jeff, so when he's done, he could just collapse in his chair. Everybody ready? And Jen, you're in. All right, Jeff.
So Tribeca, we're going to do, I think we can do 1 through 5. Let's see. Yeah. These are all straightforward. There were no objections or whatever. Anybody have any questions? And we'll take a quick look at the addresses. No.
Okay, call the question,
Okay.
let's roll.
All in favor of 1 through 5 in the Tribeca area? Okay.
Any opposed? Any recusals? Any abstentions? All right, we're good. Number 6, which is 52 Walker.
52 Walker that's M15, which has been a trouble spot for years.
Yeah.
Even the chairman of the SLA brings it up out of the blue when he talks about trouble spots. Our problem is the neighbors come to us at renewal time, and they don't put in complaints with 311 necessarily, or the police, or the SLA in between. We can't, without that trail, ask the SLA to take away this license. We have to start an investigation. Lucian has spoken to them or written them, the SLA, and apparently started something. They came to us in July, supposedly to respond to community complaints, but only the lawyer showed up, and he said, oh, well, the owner will come in September and he'll have a plan. He came in, he had no plan. He said, I have no dancing, I don't know what you're talking about. So this is, again, Mark, you wrote a good part of this at the end. We can't ask for M15.
Okay.
We can't ask for them to have the license revoked, but there is this investigation going on.
So are you withdrawing the resolution at this time?
No.
No.
Or it's good?
Absolutely not.
It's good to go?
Yeah.
Then let's call the question.
Okay.
Awesome. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Any recusals? Any abstentions? Off we go.
All right. Now we have financial district, and we have 1 through 4, which are also very simple, all approved. Any questions?
Jeff, I just want to clear,
Yeah.
on 28 Liberty, where is the actual location?
28 Liberty, that's Chase.
That's the old Chase.
Yeah.
Yeah, so where's the place?
Downstairs.
It's on the third level?
It's the basement level.
Well, no, the third level is the loading dock, right?
The third level down was the level. This is their basement food
Yeah,
area.
it's the basement, I believe.
I asked that because they have something here about French doors or windows.
Well,
It's
that's
part of the thing,
boilerplate
it
in
doesn't
us.
matter. It's just part of the, it's always there in the form, we didn't take it out of the form, Anthony.
Amen.
It shouldn't be there.
It
You're right.
shouldn't be there, you're right.
Sharp.
Just take it
You're
out.
sharp.
So Jennifer,
Once a day.
can you make sure you take that out before it
We'll
goes?
take it out.
Awesome.
Okay.
Jeff,
Yes.
sorry,
Vicki.
this might be a bad time to do this, but I didn't notice this. Is this part including the Pearl Street, the 213 Glass Street to 1 Pearl Street, the Lamb Hotel?
Yes.
There's a Lamb plat that we had some problems with
Well,
a
so,
couple of years ago. This is the same people
right,
right around
so
Lamb
is this,
Pearl.
is this part of the vote? Can I make a comment on it?
Yeah, sure.
Right, it's the same owner, right?
Yes.
And so it's this problematic flat street between Gold and Pearl. So not only have they been under construction for 4 years, right? The Sheraton that is, adjacent to them, right? The only reason they settled down is because we worked for the owner and I knew the attorney. I mean, they had bullhorns at Christmas time at midnight, and when I went to ask what on earth were they doing with bullhorns, they told me the police was having their annual party. It turned out it was the Lambs having their annual party.
No? Was having
Well, the Lambs, yeah, the owners.
Oh.
They were having,
LAMS.
Okay.
Because it wouldn't be the silence of.
Lamb plat.
This is the same owner, right?
But it's a
right.
different-
So what I'm saying, right, it's just adjacent.
How does this
Same
relate
owner,
to
same
where
thing.
we are?
My point is that this tiny little street, right, and I unfortunately trace on it, is
I got
laden
8,
with noise, drinking,
6:13, 9:13,
that there's a plaza,
9:30.
so the public plaza is completely taken over by noise, dirt. Harry's Bar that has garbage, if I show you pictures, you will go, where are we living? Sanitation not picking up garbage for days, weeks on end. And now they're gonna add
This needs to
more-
go to quality of life, though.
Well, no, and now they're gonna add more partying, more noise and delivery, right? This is all related to this delivery in the morning at 7. They start at 5:30.
It's got to go to quality of life.
Yeah.
You've
Did we
gotta
put
have it.
something in there about deliveries?
We did have something in there, but it's gotta, Vicki, it's gotta go to quality of life.
Yeah,
It
if
didn't
there's a
come up
specific
as-
No,
problem.
because if they have more drinking within like 20 feet of their other drinking, they have a rooftop, they have permanent radio coming out of their restaurant or their bar.
Which one now? Lamb
Sheraton.
plat or the Sheraton? Okay, this is a different
They're
place. Okay.
adjacent, same
Okay,
owner,
all right.
right? It's on the same corner, within like 30 feet of each
I
other.
think we hear, so there's two messages. First, if there are specifics, quality of life, DOB,
And liquor,
sanitation.
all come to
And once you have a modification you want to propose, obviously you're going to vote against this, but we need to move on.
I don't know, what to say, I'm just
Well,
giving
You're
caution.
gonna oppose their liquor license.
Yeah, that's fine.
The restaurant where they serve liquor, I thought it should be in here. I think it's the third floor.
And it has a terrace, right?
Yeah, but they're not allowed, they're not licensing, and that's in here. They're not supposed to, they can't license the terrace, they're not allowed to.
Okay, so let's call the question then. This is on 1 through 4, right, for
Yeah.
Friday.
Right?
Wait, can we just go over the addresses really quick, what you're
Yeah,
including?
40 Wall Street,
Okay,
28 Liberty,
okay,
111 John, and 213, 221 Pearl.
Father, you cannot not give a liquor license for a hotel, but I think we should be very careful about what you stipulate and how they should behave.
Well, I think
Because
they have stipulations in there. Unless you have modifications.
All right, so all right, guys,
Jeff,
guys,
is 279,
hold on, hey. I get to use it for the first time. Holy crap. Okay, listen, we called the question, we're taking a vote. All in favor?
Yeah.
All right, anybody opposed? I know Vicki opposes on 213.
I'm not opposing.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are.
You
Speak your
either
point.
oppose it or you amend it.
All right.
Otherwise, we're moving on.
Opposed, 40 Wall.
Mark
Vote
opposes
40
40 Wall. Any abstentions?
You're voting
Any
over?
recusals? Yeah, you can. Just make the notes. That's the way.
All right.
All right,
quickly, number
perfect.
5.
Now let's go ahead. 75 Barclay.
75 Barclay is simply
Any order here.
Come on, Vicki.
Go ahead, Jeff.
75 Barclay is simply an administrative thing. They came to us with a different address, 63 Barclay, I think. They changed to this, and there was already an application for this. So Lucian has worked this out, and will send the letter to the SOA. We're fine with it. So it's not a vote.
She did?
Going to skip Battery Park for a moment, go to Seaport. 89 South Street, it's another place in the Seaport, we approved it. 27 Cliff, there's some administrative things Lucian's taken care of, because they came to us after they applied for the license, but we approved it. 32 Cliff is the one we tabled in July. That's the bar that's opening next to the mosque. So they came back. Nobody from the mosque appeared. So we talked with the owners. We made what the imam and his people had told us. A lot of their problems were from the previous bar, people using those steps, hanging out there all night, making noise, leaving icky things, let's say, all around. So these guys, one of our negotiating things is maybe to lower hours until things work. But the mosque didn't care about that, because their prayer services on Friday are like 1, 3, 5, and 7. So we basically just wrote into the stipulations in the resolution what these people promised us, the new applicants, that they would patrol, they would not allow their patrons to use those steps. At the end of the night, they would check the steps and clean them. So we stuck basically with the resolution we had in July, but we added those things in on the stipulations.
It's on the stipulation?
Yeah.
Yes,
They did, yeah. Yeah. So,
We're doing all the
I'm
three
losing
votes
my-
together?
All right, so let's go. Let's call the question.
on that one, I guess, okay.
Yeah, on the Seaport.
Well, okay.
All right, so let's call the question on the Seaport. All in favor? Any opposed? Any recusals? I see one recusal in the back. And
Abstain, 89 South Street and 32 Cliff.
okay.
All right, back to Battery Park, and this
Jason,
is-
which one did you recuse from? Thank you.
Which one?
89 South. Sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it here.
Two abstentions on 89 South?
No, one recusal
This is
and one abstention.
convene,
What did Mark do?
which
And
the
Mark
Battery
abstained
Park
from Cliff Street.
Committee has been working on for
Which
months
one? 32?
without getting satisfaction, I'd say.
For both?
We turned them down because they showed up without, they showed up at the last moment with a traffic plan that we've been asking for, Tammy's been asking for, the committee's been asking for since May, I think. And they came to us in July, they were supposed to have a traffic plan. It was on the questionnaire, it said see attached, there was nothing there. We said you have to have one, they came to us. Again, we were trying to get one. Our guidelines say provide us with all your material a week before the committee so that we can review it. They showed up on that night with a very sketchy, I would say, PowerPoint. We didn't want to even hear it, but we did. We started to, and after 10 minutes, it was so clear that things were just not worked out. We turned it down. Now, unfortunately, they have applied. After they came to us in July, they applied to the SLA, which kind of puts us in a weird position. Tammy and I worked on this resolution such that it's long, it has a whole history of what happened, so that this becomes the document that goes to the SLA if these people continue with their application. They say they can't withdraw without losing more time. So we're asking the SLA, if possible, to delay it, send them back to us. But if not, this resolution is going to be what goes to the SLA and stands for what we think and what we want and why we've had problems. And
Taking both of them together?
for Tammy's sake, because the Battery Park Committee spent a lot of time, we also were pointing out that there was negotiating going on. And that committee felt that they could come to an agreement given a traffic plan. Mark?
Yeah, so Anthony, I think the cover letter for this one to the SLA should just emphasize that the applicant did not comply with our guidelines and we're not able to properly vet the application. And I
I
think
thought
that.
you say that.
I think it says it
Yeah,
in
I
the
mean, we
last.
say it, but it's such a long resolution that the cover letter maybe just kind of gives
I
a
would-
snapshot.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Mark.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I can barely read the resolution, it's just.
Why is it so long then?
Because we need it for the SLA.
We need we need it for the record.
We needed it.
I thought of you
Yeah.
as I edited it, believe me.
For the record.
And for the record.
Andrew?
So for purposes of what we're voting on, is this we're denying it?
Yes,
Yes.
we're
Yes.
opposing it, yeah.
That's
It's
exactly.
somewhere in here, but you're not allowed to read that.
It's in the end, yeah.
And what's in there are somewhat the positions that we would want to take, so.
Does anybody have any questions?
Call the question.
Awesome, call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Any recusals? One, are you opposing or recusing or abstaining? Betty's
I
recusing.
think technically you have to abstain.
You have to abstain.
Refusal is always for someone involved. So
Okay.
ask for abstention.
She's an abstention. Okay.
I'm
so-
abstaining also.
And Anthony's abstaining. I think I'm gonna abstain, stepping out. I've had enough. All right.
You're abstaining?
I'm abstaining. So on that note, Jeff,
That's it.
thank you.
Bravo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Committee, and as Roger said, you got this thing together out of the geographics. And this committee has pretty much stayed together for 2.5 years. 4-hour meetings. This past week was a 4.5-hour meeting. They care, and they really work at things.
They should apply for a liquor license.
Paul, take us, listen, nobody can leave, and I'll tell you why. Although Paul has the last resolution, Mark Amoruso has a new piece of business, which will be the roll call vote. All right? So, Paul,
Okay, let's
take it
go
away.
quickly here. First item, we got a presentation from Claire Newman. She's the new president, CEO of Governor's Island. Governor's Island has had a fantastic season. They're doing well. They have programming for all different ages. And you heard a little bit about what's going on there. They opened the LMCC space last week, and they're going to be in operation until October. So, and I would just give you a preview that next month or so, they're going to come back to the Land Use Committee with their plan for, land use changes on the island. So stay tuned for that. But I have nothing to report on that. Okay, moving along. We also had a good discussion about ticket hawkers and learned more about what was going on. We're also concerned about that continued problem. We're glad that progress is being made, but we're also happy that Anthony and many others on the board are continuing to work on that. So more to come on that.
Don't point me.
Okay, floating billboards. You might be familiar, they appear on both sides of the river, East River, Hudson River, and people on this board and other places have been complaining about them. In the course of the summer, they did pass a bill up in Albany banning floating billboards, or at least so they told us. But lo and behold, the guy who really operates those boats, as you see, has said that no, he's not subject to this law. So anyway, we're going to pursue that. We're going to try to get some clarification from the state and try to get some enforcement or see where we're going from there.
I'm sorry, who's not subject to the new law?
The
billboard guy.
operator of the billboard boats has maintained that
Right.
his lawyers have said that he's not subject to the law. I don't know, I have a couple of comments, go ahead.
Is that because he's somehow based in New Jersey?
No, because he's operating federal waters.
He's claiming he's in federal water.
Subject to state law.
Something tells me there may be more to come on this, so.
Yeah.
You have to mark over that.
All right.
I was just going to say, if he's past the midpoint of the river, he's technically in New Jersey.
So we have to get Jersey to pass the law. But what about on the east side?
That's not federal, that's
Brooklyn will
state.
pass the law, or Brooklyn will beat them up.
I mean, if it's a navigable waterway, does it make it under federal jurisdiction for some reason?
No, it's state.
And Pier 17, it's about 7 or 8 feet, or maybe call it 10 feet from federal waters and federal navigable waters. And so if they stay within that range, they're in federal navigable waters.
So you're saying there's no way for the city or state to govern this?
That is my understanding.
Probably like a law issue.
Okay.
Well, we have
So
some
we get
resources
tugboats and
to-
push them back.
Sounds like we have more research to do to come back again.
All right, let me cover one more item and then we'll do the resolution. We got an item from Hudson River Park. They're going to put up an AIDS mural at Pier 40. Pier 40 is really in Ward 2, but they wanted to notify us of it because it will be very large and visible. It's intended to help in a worldwide fundraising campaign to raise multiple millions of dollars for continued aid research. So that was rather non-controversial. That sign should be up until spring, and it's non-illuminated. And finally, we have a resolution. South Street Seaport Museum trying to put them into what's called the Cultural Institutions Group. This is a group of 34 cultural institutions that, because they're designated in this group, receive far more funding than the average cultural institution. And certainly there's a lot of belief that the Seaport is deserving and needy of those additional funds. That was not a very controversial item.
Great,
so
let's
I
call
would
the question.
Call the question.
All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Any recusals? Thank you very much, Paul Goldstein. Now, there is one new piece of business that Mark's going to go super fast.
Is it off? Is it off?
It's on.
It's on.
Okay. This came up at 5 o'clock today, so it's a little time sensitive. The city council is going to have a oversight hearing regarding the film industry and the impacts of the industry on the residents and businesses. And we've spoken about this in nauseam. We have several resolutions based on this, and so wanted to do is just kind of condense all the resolutions and everything we've talked about into just a one-page resolution. Nothing new here. Everything that's in this resolution has been voted on, except for what they're proposing.
Read the
So
resolution.
the new administrative code will say there are 5 things.
Why is this time sensitive?
Because this hearing is on Thursday.
And we got notice today.
Yeah.
So what?
So
I still doesn't answer the question. They're gonna vote on Thursday?
I don't know. It's a good
Yeah,
question.
all the agencies are going to be there. I mean, they're
So
all
what's the
invited.
vote?
So, but we need to codify our position.
We have a position. Take all resolutions and vote.
Yeah, but they're not, I don't think that's a good idea.
I didn't ask you if it was a good idea.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying it's not. That's why
I
I'm
made a
proposing this.
suggestion.
I'm proposing this.
Can you do it in one page?
Plus, we need to comment on their administrative code changes.
I think you should have a wider debate in the White House.
Well, let's see if anyone disagrees with this.
okay.
Can I finish? And to see if anyone disagrees with this? They want to have a 72-hour notice that when filming will disrupt parking. Create a community bill of rights that will address communities during filming. Require a task force that considers the impact of film and TV. Give a 14-day notice
Roll call.
when special parking requests are required. Plus the 2 things that we've already voted on, requesting that they be a full-time liaison, and that when alternate side parking is used, that there be a justification for it if there's parking available that's non-alternate side. We've
Bruce.
already voted on those 2 things.
I agree with some, not others. I do think unless there's a vote pressing, that we discuss this first in a committee further and then with the full board. I, for one, am thrilled that LA is moving back to New York for the film
Okay.
industry.
So
I
the
think
the
it's a
question
great
is,
thing.
are we accepting this as new business,
Well,
Anthony?
the thing is,
Yeah, there's a whole vote.
the thing is that I
Should
think,
have formalism.
I think on Thursday, we really, and there's nothing new here, there's nothing new that's in here, there's no surprises.
You know what, we haven't seen anything to vote on, though.
The problem is we haven't seen it to vote on it, which is one of the concerns that we talked about to start the
I move to
meeting.
table until we have a resolution.
So,
There's a motion to table.
there's a motion to table, it's been seconded.
No debate.
Let's do the roll call.
Okay, so now,
Roll
hold
call
on.
on the
We have
motion
to-
to table.
We're gonna roll call on the motion to table, because we still need to have a roll call to close the meeting. All right, so ready? Here we go. And Mark, please bring it back to committee, either quality of life or
Well, let's see
licensing.
if the motion to table passes.
Go.
Amoruso,
No.
Burton, Blank,
The motion to table is a yes.
Yes, if you vote yes, you're voting to table this until resolution is committee.
And then it goes back to committee.
Byram,
Yes.
Cameron,
No.
Chapman, Charkoudian, Chu, Cole,
No.
Kuchia, Cunningham,
No.
Curtis,
Yes.
Ehrlich,
No.
Ehrman,
Yes.
Francoeur,
Yes.
Frederickson, Friedman, Froman,
No.
Goldstein, Gupta,
Yes.
Jesse, James,
I love that, Jesse.
Joyce, Kay, Cannell, Kettering,
Yes.
Copel,
Yes.
Lemire, Lerner,
No.
Lewinson,
Yes.
Mahoney,
Yes.
Markel, McHugh, Meltzer,
Abstain.
Mahalski,
Yes.
Myhawk,
No.
Moore,
No.
Nataro,
Yes.
Schneck,
Yes.
Safat, Star, Sung,
No.
Tedesco. Gonna make me count these.
Yep.
Townley, Wade, Weinstock, G,
No.
Zelter.
Yes.
All right, so now it's so close, we gotta count. You guys gotta hang on. Because if the noes have it, then we vote on the resolution.
1, 2, 3.
And I'm gonna kill you, Mark.
Supposed to roll call
Mark.
so I can have dinner.
Only Mark.
Regardless.
Only
Well,
Mark.
if you leave, we don't have,
I wrote this in my car like a half hour.
Shush.
Mark, or anyone. If we don't have something tonight, is there anything preventing you from being there to testify?
No, I wanted to ask if I could represent the board there, if that's all right,
no,
presenting the resolution.
you can present the resolution, you don't represent the board.
Well, who's gonna represent the board then, at the committee?
The resolution.
We don't have we have a position on record.
17.
In favor of the motion to table, 15
Okay,
opposed.
17 are in favor of the motion to table. It literally is 17 to 15.
And wait, and was
All right,
there,
with, and that
Wasn't there an
includes my
abstention?
and one abstention.
So we're done.
Well,
Was there a-
the abstention is in opposition, abstentions count as no votes.
well,
Yeah,
so
I said, you weren't here.
It was
so I-
17, 15.
Doesn't matter, you have to.
yeah.
Thank you, everybody.